The following is brought to you in part by a grant from the Foundation for White Wellbeing.
One final testimony here. This is from Nathaniel. I just found this, and it speaks to me on a lot of levels. Too many forget that the continuance of a people should come from the love of one's own people, and not a hate for the other. I hate the mistakes I made. I wear them every day, and some I even wish I could take back. But time is merciless and flows only forward. I'm trying to rectify them, but some I may just have to live with. It's an uphill battle. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt.
Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt.
Everything from being a man to encouraging your kin to face tattoos to how you identify yourself and your beliefs to discerning your motivations for why you want to see the children of the West survive. Don't make my mistakes. You'll feel like a fool otherwise. Don't make my mistakes. That's from Nathaniel Nelson. A warning to him about the warnings that he wished he had somebody share with him.
Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt.
How about now? Can you hear me now? Rolling in, going free, sick of this platform. Gonna have to make some changes. I don't know. Maybe a different platform. All right, it's good now. It's working. Piece of shit. What was that song? Piece of shit car. I got a piece of shit car. A fucking pile of. It never gets me very far. Bobby Boldley is here. Jay Bishop, a nameless one. Hey, share that we are together, that we are rolling in for going free. Church of the West, all things good in this world. We got questions of the day. We got interesting subject matter to talk about. We got laughs. We got all things that are good and hilarious. Justin McDaniel is in the house. Holy freaking crap is with us as well. Good to see you all, and throwing things together so that we can be together. You can financially gift yours truly at Entropy, which is working, unlike last time where it took a while for it to work. And we also have Premium Rumble up and running. Please, $1 or so there, because they take so much money. D Live in a cryptocurrency, Odyssey in a cryptocurrency. Hello to everybody that's there. Hello to Daughter of Eve, who has shown up over here in the live chat on X. God bless our brothers and sisters. She said, we can hear you. We can hear you. You can also financially gift at Cash App and subscribe, so I'll be checking those out as we're rolling along. Mandy Joe is here. Hello and welcome. Dinner time, says Fernell, and he'll be right back. It is 7:30 on the East Coast of these United States and the once great state of Virginia, across from Mordor on the Potomac. We also have Clean of White Noir over here saying, yes, can hear you. Thank you so much. Gonna have to address the platform. Thank you all for getting to me quickly about it not working, so that I don't end up talking forever. Tree Godfather is in the house. Howdy, Jason, he says. You can also tag me over the course of the gathering as No White Guilt. No White Guilt. I'll be keeping my eyes primarily on the live chat on X and Premium Rumble and YouTube. But I will be checking all of the different platforms, including all of the platforms on which you can financially gift. So, here to have some fun. What's our question of the day? What stories are we even going to cover today? Well, we got hate hoaxing going on, don't we? Hate hoaxing is hush criming, as we like to say here. And everybody else will eventually as well. After telling us it's gay, it's Claudine gay, and it won't work. They'll take it. They'll adopt it because it works. And then the good ones will have to roll back around to apologize. Give credit where credit is due. Gresham's law in racial politics. We have that today as well. What is Gresham's law? Well, we'll talk about it. And how does it apply to racial politics? We have some swamp purging going on, and we have the swamp pushing back. Items from all of that. Even have Chris Langan, the highest IQ in the world, is pro-white, and has made that clear several times on his X account, but really making it clear in a recent post. And I think it was Samuski who brought my attention to it. So God bless that champion. Let me get some more caffeine in me so that I can thoroughly wake up on these few hours of sleep. It's been busy. It's been very busy, but let everybody know that we are live. Because you're honestly, Samuski said, this is, who was it? Was it Samuski? This is like, it's not going to get better. You get the information to improve yourself, to improve your life. And while doing that, improving yourself, improving your life with receipts, we have to show this. And we do every single week with receipts. You recapture the destiny of our people. My God. It couldn't get any better. This is a one-stop shop for all things white positive and the reclamation of our destiny. How epic is that? Let me just take a quick look over here. Yes, indeed, Entropy is up and running, or at least it's running. The feed is reaching everybody. What is our question? We got 2 questions of the day as we work through our news and talk about how we can use that news as a catalyst to introduce the dialectical armory of white well-being. But we have here 2 questions of the day. Let's break them out. Have you experienced falling down the stairs? Has that ever happened? Yeah, you know it has. And how old were you? And what happened? And you're going to be like, yesterday, cartwheel down, broke my head, neck, and shoulders on the way down. SN is with us. Great to see you. Max and Rob, hello to you. Welcome, welcome. I fell into a burning ring of fire. That song just came to me for some reason. Max and Rob did it. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. I had this anti-white reach out and say, don't sing his music. He would hate you. And I said, yeah, well, I happen to think that if he were to have known me, he would think otherwise. He would choose a white positive route. The cash man, he would choose a white positive route. And that really pissed off the anti-white. How dare you? How dare you? Just like that little girl from the United Nations. How dare you? Have you fallen down the stairs? I have. And I may recount that tale for you as we are together. I've fallen down the staircase. You'll tag me as No White Guilt, the @ symbol No White Guilt on any of these platforms. And I will read your answer to question number 1. Or do you have an answer for question number 2? And it's aptly placed for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. And we are slowly working our way out of the frigid temperatures. The polar vortex has visited us, has frozen off our unmentionables. And now we are approaching warmer days, longer days. And what is it, therefore, that you like to do most, or what do you like most about going to the beach? What do you like most about going to the beach? And it can be from any time in your life. I mean, a lot of us, we have these halcyon days of our youth when mom and dad would drag us off to the beach. It was the family vacation. And what did you like most about them? Anything that you learned or thought you knew about the beach that later in life you were shocked? Because I have a tale about that as well. Holy freaking crap. My brother and I rode down the stairs on a mattress. Apropos, that's fantastic. But put our foot through the wall, which was full of old rusty razor blades. Oh my God, who put the razor blades in the wall? What in the world? How did that happen? Is that real? Wow, yeah, that counts. Did you go down, so we can amend the question a little bit. Did you intentionally ride down the stairs? Well, you're not supposed to do that. I saw a hilarious video that just reminded me of this guy who was carrying his, I think maybe son, I don't know, toddler or something. And it was caught on their surveillance. And the guy went down the stairs and it tore him up something fierce. But he was able to get the baby away. Oh, and you know what? There was another one I saw that was a little dog. And it was wooden steps. So this little dog slipped at the top of the steps. And again, the surveillance camera caught this. And the dog was okay. In the end, the dog survived. I mean, I'm sure bumps and bruises and probably a little scared. But he went down the steps, and I swear it took him eternity. He was fighting every minute of it. Just cartwheels. And then when he hit the bottom of the steps, he got up on all fours and he looked back at the stairs and then went and then trotted away. That was the dog's way of saying, you. And then you hear like some family member from somewhere else in the house is like, you know, Fido, whatever the dog's name was. That's not going to help. He's already done Cirque du Soleil cartwheels on his face, back, neck, ass, and shoulders all the way down. I think he lived. He did live. He walked away, but he was definitely bruised up. Justin says, question, diving into the waves. That's likes most about the beach. That's fun, isn't it? Definitely. I enjoy that myself. There was a bathroom on the other side, and old medicine cabinet had a slot to put blades in the wall. Oh, my Lord. Damn. Was tetanus shots involved? Were there massive lacerations? Azimuth Clark is here. Brother. Hello to you. Sewer pipe froze, backed up all the way into the basement. The room is destroyed. What a day. Oh, my Lord. Wow. We're getting started off with fireworks. Sliding down the stairs into a bed of razor blades, and the sewage pipe blows up into your basement. I think that's pretty much when you just burn the house down. You just set it on fire and you start life over in another town with a new identity. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. That's really got to be awful. Diving into the waves. I like that myself. Should I just get it out of the way? What I like about the beach? The scenery. The scenery. Obviously, I'm talking about sand and ocean and not the terribly fit females in bikinis. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm talking about. Have you gone fishing at the beach? You go on the pier, you do a little bit of fishing. You go out on the beach and you strut. You show your stuff off. Maybe you're in shape. You're looking good. What else? Ivan the Horrible is over there on Premium Rumble. What do we have here? Ivan enjoyed picking up crabs. Oh, Ivan. Most people get shampoo for that and they get rid of it. And that's the beach question. Okay. Gotcha. Other small organisms at the beach and storing them in the vehicle of whoever took Ivan to the beach. I'm sure they love that. They died and started rotting, which was very unpleasant. But it was fun to collect them at least. Well, I bet it was. That is perfectly in keeping with Ivan. Ivan also has an answer for number one. Ivan fell down the stairs plenty of times as a children, which led to Ivan developing a fear of walking down the stairs with socks on. Yeah, that's dangerous. Ivan was also terrified of heights, looking up, and was constantly paranoid about gravity reversing itself and Ivan floating up into the sky. Now that is a rare concern, my friend. Of all of the concerns that are out there, that's a rare one. Floating away. What is the phobia for that? Agoraphobia? What is that? Already, well, Ivan has chimed in. Will you? 2 questions of the day. You can answer them at any part in the course of the gathering. What do you like most about the beach? And have you ever fallen down the stairs? What happened? Were you riding a mattress? Did you cartwheel down the steps? Samuski is with us. Hello, brother. Good to see you. Amanda Joe says, we used to go downstairs on our stomachs, head first, and see who could do it fastest. Carpeted old farm stairs. Oh my gosh. We are learning things about this community right now. Wow. Mestizokov is with us. Dennis is with us. Stumbling definitely has to have a story about falling down the stairs. I can feel it in my bones. We're going to be getting started in just a moment with the great King Dice, a little bit of a King Dice video, and you're going to have a heck of a lot of fun when we do that. But before we do that, we have to hear from one of our brand new sponsor. We have to hear from one of our sponsors. This is going to be really exciting for everybody. This sponsor, let me go ahead and put this up on the screen. Are we embiggened on it? Yes, we are. Our new sponsor is Cougar International. Let's hear their commercial.
Welcome to legendary Beverly Hills, home of CougarInternational.com. I'm Yaya, and with me today are a couple of our beautiful CougarInternational.com members.
Hi, I'm Crystal, and I've always been a cougar. Younger men are living in this decade. They like current music. They like to go dancing. They wear current clothing styles. They have current hairstyles, and they watch current movies. Younger men are still growing and changing. The only way that I can really count on an older man to keep growing is around the midsection.
Thank you, Crystal. Well said.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm 49, very proud of my age and very grateful. Professionally, I'm a style and beauty expert. Mentally, I'm on the pulse of what is contemporary. It's great to meet new people, both men and women. I mean, I've already made some great new friends, and we can go out together and meet the cubs.
Yeah.
Log on and read my blog post titled "Youth is a Gift, Age is a Work of Art," and do your pictures suck? I would love to hear your comments.
We have a live video chat with Uvu.
Also, we have special events for just the ladies, such as coffees and brunches, where we can dish like the Sex and the City girls do, and that's great.
Come join the fun, and happy hunting.
All right, that's our newest sponsor. Oh, it's lovely. Question of the day. Have you experienced falling down the stairs, running from the members of Cougar International? Question number 2. What do you like most about the beach? Is it running from the Cougars and Cougar International? Justin McDaniel, pretty surprised by our new sponsor. Arden White is with us. Fear of gravity is barophobia. Thank you, Ivan. Arden White says, ladder at the bottom laid there a moment. What, fell down the ladder? She said, I remember my sister falling down the stairs. It was the 90s. A brand new pair of platform shoes. Ouch. Her first step twisted the ankle, hit her head on the spindles on the way down. Rolled off into a ladder at the bottom there before saying, ow, my kidneys. Damn, she's alive, so it's funny. I've come to see. Who else is with us here? Cockatoo is with us. Hello, Cockatoo. Our history, it's brought me peace. It's set me free. See, what else do we have here? Anglo-Saxon NWG playing in the background. Dear God, Justin says. High-speed drifter. Razor blades used to be thrown down into the wall of root medicine cabinets. Not kidding. Wow, I did not know that. I no idea. Like, let's just deposit all of the biological hazard into the walls of the house. Wow. Fell downstairs at 4, broke a couple ribs, but learned to pay attention. Wow, Tree Godfather has the worst injury so far, I think. Unless Arden wants to tell us what was the result of the sister cartwheeling? Not stairs, but my mom slid down a hill of pig crap when she was a child in her new dress. Oh no. Told not to go outside in the garden. She said her hair was stuck straight up in the back. Ugh! Oh, that is awful. That is awful. Now, I fell down. Now, that was Jay Bishop. I fell down the stairs as a child, as a very young. I was being babysat. It was actually a very cool family. They lived very near. In fact, they were very, and they. I guess I won't say. I was going to say the profession of the man of the house, but I won't say. But nevertheless, a very cool family, and they had an old dog, and they used to. The guy had a chair that was in the corner of the living room, and they put the dog bed behind it. I used to crawl over to it, and I wasn't allowed to go back there, though. She said, "Don't go back there. That dog might bite you. Who knows?" So I never did. But I remember I was at the top of her stairs, and it was one of those, like, where you willed the horrible thing to happen. I was looking down the stairs, and I was like, what if I suddenly begin to fall down these stairs? And it took like 2 steps, and oh boy, it just happened. I started going, and then it was like faster and faster, and I was grabbing for things, and I was bloop, bloop, bloop down the stairs. And I did a little bit of a side roll, maybe a little bit of a forward head roll. And I was grabbing. I was like that little dog. I fought like every bit of the way. I was pretty sure that Lucifer was waiting for me at the end of the stairs. Like, come on, Jason. Little Jason, come to me. Come to me now, little Jason. I was like, no. No, I was reaching and I was falling. It made a hell of a noise. Especially every time my head hit the wall and the stairs. And the spindles, it was like a musical instrument. It was like on one side, and then the bass drum, boom, boom, boom on the other side. And I ended up on the bottom, like this. I was prostrate on the floor, like one leg bent weirdly out this way. She came running, screaming, the woman of the manor. She screamed and ran over. And I was actually okay. It was odd. It's kind of like being a kid falling down the stairs, and you're bendable, you're flexible, you're very flexible. Now, if I fell down the stairs, limbs would rip right off. I better be careful. Limbs would rip right off. They'd probably be severed by razor blades kept by previous homeowners. There'd be nothing but pieces of Jason at the very bottom of the stairs. So that was my, and I've got some beach tales. I've got some interesting beach tales. I shared actually a beach tale just on Sunday, but I've got others, I can assure you. I've got many a beach tale to share. Lots of tales. But it's up to you. Dan is with us. Great to see you. It's up to you whether or not we are going to hear some of the beach tales. But we are first going to be getting into King Dice, and we're going to be having, we're going to roll. We're talking about, if I can bring this up, we're talking about hate hoaxing and the anti-whites. There are various ways that anti-whites are now pushing back against everything that Donald Trump is doing and what some of the Republicans are going to be trying to do. And of course, the hate hoaxing is happening full force.
Well, it happened again. It's an annual occurrence now where an item resembling a noose was found on a black employee's desk, this time in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and inside the city hall. This is a city hall worker. And of course, the local city hall people are freaking out. The local morons are freaking out. The media is freaking out. The police are involved. Now the FBI is involved. And this story broke a few weeks ago, but I've been just watching it and waiting to see when reality would set in. So I have some interesting updates for you.
Have you all heard about this? I guess it's Allentown, PA. Can somebody tell me for sure?
Know that these things only turn out one of two ways. Either it was a USB cable that somebody just put on somebody's desk that was knotted up and looked like a scary noose and caused the delusional lunatics to completely freak out. And the police are just too woke to just put that person in a mental institution, or the individual concocted this hoax themselves.
After a disturbing discovery at an Allentown City Hall, people rallied for justice today. Residents, clergy
Rallied for justice. With all of the contradictory, this is a great opportunity to pause for a moment and point out that you have lived an entire lifetime hearing about hate hoaxes, and yet they are always immediately interpreted as real. How does that happen? We explain that with the Go Free dialogic, don't we? You understand it if you practice Go Free, because entertainment is the real world for your brain, the subconscious part, which lives 95% of your life. And so in entertainment, non-white people are incessantly plagued with white boogeymen who are just there to harm them and victimize and torment them. So even though you have an entire lifetime of these always being fake, and the hyperbole is warranted, because how often have they ever turned out to be real? I can remember all the way back to being a child and on the news, the local news, seeing that churches, a bunch of black churches in the area had been set on fire, and they had incorrectly drawn swastikas and KKK sprayed on the churches that were set on fire. And then, of course, it ended up being that these preachers had done it themselves. There is a impetus there to make real for the anti-white, and look back for yourself. Make sure I'm remembering that accurately, because of course the ear is against the door. There's an impetus for anti-whites to make real in their environment what they never actually see. Yeah, they see it in their entertainment, and yes, that's the real world, but they're not physically seeing. Where is it? They know everybody else isn't seeing it either in their immediate environment, so they make it real. So once again, you got the Bubba Wallace case, you have the Smollett, the Small Dork case, and it's just infinite. You have the Jewish, I think it was a female not that long ago, who drew the swastika on her dorm door, not putting two and two together, that there was a camera at the end of the hall videotaping her do that to her own dorm room door. Again, check these stories out. Maybe I'm remembering them incorrectly, but it's an important point to pause on, to say that why aren't these just automatically 100% everyone dismisses them? And I'm not talking about why does the news choose to cover them, but it might be the same motivation. Why would an editor, why would the director, the producer, why would the reporters, they don't have to be anti-white and conscious of the malicious lie that they are perpetuating. They too could be concluding, and it could be a little bit of both for them. And that's how and why these things end up being advertised and popularized by media.
And mental health professionals took to the sidewalks in protest, demanding action and accountability after a city employee reported finding what police say resembled to be a noose on her desk last week.
God, look at this mentally deranged butt plug. If a butt plug was a person, it's this anti-white right here.
Speakers presented a list of demands to city officials, including that the incident should be investigated as a federal hate crime.
It is Allentown, PA. Gosh. The tree godfather coming in with some sage wisdom. It's not the fall, it's the sudden stop at the end. Well, exactly. Let's hear about one of your beach tales. I mean, tales. Samuski writes, Foster Kennel is in the house. Missing is here. Hello, hello. What is this? Valentine Design? Is that how you would pronounce it? to make it sophisticated. Good to see you all. Remember, tag me if you have a question for one of the questions of the day, and I'll read it. And I do have some beach stories of my own. They're wild. Some things have happened in the world. Some wild and crazy things have happened. Maybe we'll share. Janice is here, and make sure you share that we're live, because we're not going to be shared otherwise. We got to break through to the good folks who can hear and want to take responsibility for the survival and well-being of our people. Remember, we're going to be talking about the smartest man in the world, the highest IQ in the world, 200 IQ, Chris Langan, and his recent pro-white tweet. Was it you, Samuski, who had retweeted it? A couple of our champions, our swashbucklers, were there in the thread. Maybe we'll see them when I pull it up. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about some of the steps going on right now with ICE and some of this pushback, as well as Gresham's law in racial politics. Important to learn.
Councilwoman Cece Gerlach
Maryland
tells
is good.
Action News that a member of Allentown's Department of Community and Economic Development made the disturbing discovery after the employee requested mediation for complaints about workplace discrimination.
I actually spoke with a detective at the Allentown Police Department weeks ago. As soon as this story broke, I didn't record the call because I live in a two-party consent state, so that would be illegal. But he wasn't giving any information, but he knew, based off of my questions, that I knew that he knew what this really was. Now, the Allentown police have got a search warrant to collect a DNA sample of the person who claims to be the victim of the noose.
Now, where do you think this is going to go? The best thing about going to the beach is going swimming with my children, says daughter of Eve. That's wonderful. Oh, I remember my father going out into the waves and then playing that game that makes the blood run cold in all mothers. The one where dad picks up the children and throws them like he shot puts them for a country mile, as we say now. He shot puts them and then they hit and completely disappear. Yay! Let's play. Where did the kids go? Ah, dads. Where did you think this went? Thank you for chiming in there, daughter of Eve. Where did this story go? The FBI comes in. They say, FBI, you got to come investigate this. This villain in the anti-white narrative. And you'll see, how does this connect then to our next item, which is Gresham's law in racial politics. Actually, an economic law, but we'll talk about it in a moment. But this villain is a very real monster that kills and maims and probably eats non-white babies before they hatch. But the FBI comes in and says, all right, well, the only way we're going to investigate this, obviously there are no cameras, so we're going to have to get DNA. What do you think the woman did who found the noose on her desk? Any guesses?
Turns out that person didn't want to willingly hand over their DNA so that they could be ruled out as a suspect, even though everybody else in the City Hall office willingly offered to turn over their DNA to rule them out.
Wow. So the woman here, I believe it's a woman, who made the claim that there was a noose placed on her, of course, another government employee. And it's all government employees that are fighting back. And you'll find we got an item here where Fong was her name. An apparatchik in the deep state in Washington, D.C. said, I'm not leaving. I don't care if he fired me. Donald Trump fired her. And, she left. She was escorted out of the building. But we'll get to that. It's coming up. But this woman, the FBI shows up, and she thinks it's going to be a cakewalk. get to make a little report about the evil of the white race. Come to find out, she didn't want to give her DNA for them to investigate. Every single other person in the office did. What do you think happens next?
On January 15th, an FBI agent interviewed the employee. Throughout the interview, the agent noted several vague statements and deceptive answers that raised concern in the investigation. Shortly after the interview, the city employee called the agent and requested that the FBI discontinue the investigation into who put the noose on her desk. One of the questions I asked the detective was if it's discovered that this individual planted it themselves, if they would be charged with filing false police reports and making false statements to the police. And his answer was that would be up to the district attorney. So if we have a George Soros DA, and if this turns out to be a hoax, which obviously it looks like it is, then the DA is not going to actually press charges, and this is just going to quietly go away.
And that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, charges should be filed. Why? Because if it is logically, if it is a hate crime, which 99.9% of the time is only ever used against white people, very rare that hate crimes are placed against non-white people. And in a majority of those, and you can check it out for yourself, make sure I'm right, majority of those, it's non-white on non-white, not non-white on white. So the vast majority of the time, the charge is applied to white people. And then the remainder of that time, the majority of that time, it's a non-white on non-white person when hate crime charge is filed. Why shouldn't it be a hate crime if it's a hate crime to say that some white person put a noose on my desk? Isn't it a hate crime? In that case, remember, it's one person they're saying did this, or implying one or two or three if there were conspirators in the grand noosing desk attack. Isn't it then also a hate crime when you draw the noose of suspicion around all the white people that work there, around all the white people in the community? Isn't that then also, you're saying on the basis of their race, they racially terrorized me? Well, of course. Of course. But you live in the anti-white narrative. You don't live in any level of normalcy. And again, it's one of the reasons why it's so important to talk about our victimization, not mentioning race, and that's the wrong thing to do. You shouldn't talk about race at all. No, you need to talk about who the victim is here if you want to stop these things. Rest assured, there will be other hate hoaxers that will succeed, as there have been in the past in their hoax, and white people will be victimized as a consequence. I still have, unless they took it down, a video on YouTube where at an Air Force base, the white people at the Air Force base were victimized. The general, the so-called general there, lambasted all of the white people. And it ended up being the black guy that found the KKK and whatever else it was on his door and in his room. It ended up being him. Exactly what I said, by the way, that he was washing out of the program. He couldn't cut it. And he didn't want to be humiliated in front of his family. So, hey, there's this thing that happens all the time over here. White people are always, so it's the white people's fault. They ran me out of there. A bunch of racists did this. Well, as I said in the title here, every hate hoax is a hush crime. This is a crime. This person should be charged. This person should be punished. This person should lose his or its job. There should be an extremely stiff, if Donald Trump were going to make a change, there should be a federal law that seriously punishes those who commit hate hoaxes, because they are condemning an entire race of people. Everyone knows a noose showing up. Who else is it going to be? Who else is in the anti-white narrative? It's going to be Eskimos put it there. Is it going to be some pygmies that broke in and put? No, everybody's thinking the white race, which brings me to my next point. How does everyone think that white people are responsible for these things if you weren't programmed to think that? If there wasn't an anti-white narrative? Open your eyes to the world. Open your eyes to the reality that we live in a fictionalized reality called the anti-white narrative. Some of it is pure fiction. Some of it is reality that's fictionalized, and much less is actual reality. Largely, that serves as a context. In other words, Allentown, PA is reality. That's serving as your context where this fiction took place. And the fact that we could go to every person in America, in Australia, in wherever, and here I'm not talking about those who are like in this community, obviously. You go out into the hinterland, go and talk to the Vagues. Give them a piece of paper with check boxes. Do you think it's a black person that left a noose on the desk? Do you think it's don't even mention the race of the victim or the sex or the orientation or whatever. You know that 99+% of them are going to check white guy every time, which tells you that they are living their lives in their subconscious mind, where entertainment is reality. Because if there was no subconscious mind that was unable to discern the difference between reality and fiction, then every single person would say, where's the checkbox for hoax? Because they've all lived that. They've all seen that with their own two eyes. Since we're in the anti-white narrative and anti-whites dominate the news and entertainment media, this actual hate crime against the totality of the white race is now a hush crime. This isn't going to be talked about. I mean, King Dice is covering it. God bless him. Big salutes to King Dice. But this is just local news in Allentown, PA. No one else is going to be hearing about this. Because in the anti-white narrative, that which contradicts anti-whiteism and the anti-white narrative is buried underfoot, is hidden, is quarantined to Allentown. And you know what? The majority of people in Allentown are not even going to learn that it's a hoax, a hate hoax. They're not even going to learn it because the news is not going to present that. King Dice here went and made the calls to the detective, the lead detective, and that's how he got the information. If they do any news on it, and we've seen this over the years, like in the newspaper, bury it in the back somewhere. Bury it deep in the second third of the paper in a little blurb. Everyone will read about the news showing up on the desk of the employee in the Allentown government, and that will be what they remember. Why? Because that will comport with their bias that they've been given by what? The anti-white narrative. So they learn in the fiction that this kind of thing happens all the time. They see it in the news reportage. This is why I always refer to them as news and entertainment media. That's why I always talk about them together. They're the same thing. There's a breadth of difference between the two. Just like there's a breadth of difference between a court historian and a rag like the Inquirer. There's no difference. Where's Wallace? Where's George Wallace? So a breadth of difference, a hair's worth of difference between the two. We also have to mention while we're looking at this before moving on, that this is not a race hoax. This is what the cucks are giving their audiences, isn't it? Because they don't want you focusing on the white race. They don't want you focusing on the system being geared to harming white people because they too live in the anti-white narrative. And in the anti-white narrative, it is immoral to object to the victimization of white people as a people. You can object to the victimization of a white person without mentioning that they're white. But you can't mention, without being immoral, which again tells you that there is an anti-white narrative, that there is an anti-white immoral imperative that is the social morality of the West. Because you feel hesitation in talking about the victimization of white people as a people. These are really important points. Now, in some cases, conservative content creators who will say race hoax as though it turned it into an abstraction for the abstraction cowards they are. In some cases, there are indeed harder core anti-white backers or bosses, editors that say, no, you're not going to say hate hoax anymore. Why? Because hate you immediately associate with the white race. So when you hear hate hoax, the average vague, the vague out there immediately understands that it is a fictionalized attack of hatred. And when they see and they know and they understand or suspect who the so-called victim was, a non-white, they then know they can infer that the so-called attackers, actual victims, are the white race. Just think of, little Benny telling Matt Walsh not to use anti-whiteism anymore, which is what happened. So there are cases like that. But in most cases, it's white people self-regulating, self-policing. They know it's immoral to defend white people, and they feel much more comfortable than using an abstraction. Anybody can do it to anybody else, and it's just another when it's not happening any other way. It's not. So we have to stay firm. When somebody uses race hoax, we got to say it's a hate hoax, and they are lying about the white race because they're anti-white. That's what we need to remember. King Dice bringing you the news, ladies and gentlemen. My tweet coming up on Gresham's law in racial politics and the story associated. We do have the questions of the day. I'll be pulling it down, but I'll put it back up a little bit later. The questions of the day, there are two. Make sure you tag me if you would like me to read your answers. I would like to hear your answers. Have you ever fallen down the stairs? How did it happen? How old were you? Were you injured? Were you fine? And question number two, if you would like to answer that one instead, or both. What do you like most about going to the beach? Is it the smell of the ocean? Is it the squawk of the seagulls? What is it? Is it the sand beneath your toes? Is it the beautifully oiled and sweaty guys and gals that are out on the beaches looking fabulous? Actually, you know what's really kind of sad is that the white race, all of us, were in beautiful shape before we started getting poisoned by this conservative capitalistic worship of money. And as long as they're making a buck, it's moral. It's the moral thing to do. And so they start poisoning us. But you look at the old photographs of the beaches, and only like the filthy rich were out of shape. Everybody else was in great shape, and they wore like 3-piece suits to the beach at that time. Now when everybody is sick and bloated and they have like pustules. Now they're out there in like thongs, looking just absolutely revolting. Has anybody ever been at the beach and seen that guy? You know, the guy with like the hairy ass, back and chest, arms and legs. And he's got like one of them little ball huggers on, looking like a girl. Yeah. But before we do that, we have a missing persons announcement. This is a very serious matter. We want to make sure that we do our part to participate in the missing persons announcements. So we're just going to share that real quickly and we will continue. Fatima, 43. She's missing. And here is her poster. Make sure that you give a call to the number associated there on the screen. If you see her, Fatima, 43 years of age. Want to make sure that she's returned to her loving husband and family, children of 43. 43 children this woman has produced. We want to make sure she makes it home. Take a look at this, folks. Take a good look at this online Aryan Nazi who shouted you down for caring about whites rather than spurging on the Jews. He is an actual Goyim Defense League leafleteer. An actual leafleteer. He was caught posting one of their leaflets, IRL. What is Gresham's law? In politics, in racial politics. Gresham's law comes from economics. It states that bad money chases out good money. You can't have competing currencies in a civilization because people will hoard the good. They won't use it. If they can use the poor, they can use the bad money. So Gresham's law, the bad chases out the good. In racial politics, in the survival of our people, the bad racial political advocates chase out the good. Race, non-white race spurgs chase away, and we've covered this a lot, but I couldn't help but tell this story and share this with you all because it's another great example of an online personality. In fact, there was one I gave years ago. I started using his name for when this would happen online, and you would see, maybe it'll come back to me. There was a Jewish teenager, and he was a dual Israel-American citizen years back. Maybe somebody can look up his name. And I think it was it the FBI? Maybe it was the FBI that went and arrested him because he was online. They finally identified who this was, and he was making all kinds of terroristic threats. He wasn't doing it for his Jewish people, though. He was doing it as a Nazi. He was doing it as a radical Islamist. He had literally hundreds of accounts. Do you all remember this guy? He fled back to Israel. Jacob, what was his name? Was it Jacob? Does anybody have it? Something, I know it's going to sound like a shocker. It's something Berg, I think. We'll see, though. We'll see. Maybe it'll come back to me, or maybe one of you will figure it out. But he was out there online and and this was long before there were bots that could pass a Turing test or that you would fall for. What's that other concept? that you would fall for because you would think that the statements are from a human being. No, this guy was actually out there as an Aryan crusader and keeping the conversation on hating Jews. Keeping the conversation. No, you can't talk about white people. You can't talk about our well-being. You can't talk about our victimization because, in fact, if you're doing that, then you are all of these slanders. So it's important. Gresham's law is important to remember its application in racial politics because the bad incessantly chases out the good unless the good is willing to stand and endure the storm of it. And that's what we've been doing. And that's what you saw that we did and no one else did when Kanye West decided he was going to have his little spaz out and start saying nasty things about the Jews, and then ended up getting obliterated by them, and we created Ye's Law. In fact, I might still have... Do I still have that video? Let's see. Quick run through. Might not. Where is it? Maybe not. Maybe I don't have it. Don't have it still up here. But you saw what happened at that time was this massive storm of attacks, of slanders, of character assassination. By whom? Well, all these online non-white spurgs, and in particular spurging out on Jews. That's not a defense of Jews. That's not a defense of anti-white Jews at all. But you can see when these people are, whether they're this black guy or whether they're the Jewish guy or whether it was that guy from Peru that came after me, and we found it precisely that they are non-white, 100% non-white. And they want the conversation to not be about white people in our victimization. That's not to say that there aren't white idiots out there who want the conversation to not be about white people in our victimization and our children and our future, because there are. But how many of them are these other types? So let's take a look at this story. Nashville school gunman 17 who killed teen girl appeared to be a self-loathing incel. Do you have any wonder about what community he was in where they proudly talk about being incels? He's a kid. He's talking about being an incel. He's proud of that. Wonder what community he was in. 17-year-old Nashville school shooter who killed or one of the communities he was in, because he was also in the absolutely Fed-run GDL with its leader, Tits. He shot, and of course they're saying alleged because I guess the police haven't said, well, 100% that was the case, maybe yet, before turning the gun on himself. Left a dark trail of hate, online postings, and appeared to be a self-loathing incel, according to the anti-white ADL. Teen shooter Solomon Henderson expressed a wide array of troubling views in a purported manifesto on social media before gunning down 16-year-old female at Antioch High School. What happens on the incel forums is that people are told the only reason they're incels is because of their race or like their inabilities, their handicap, their ugliness, their height, whatever it is. And there in those incel proud circles, he picked up anti-Jew sentiment. I wonder what community that could have been. I wonder. He posted a lot of anti-Jew and anti-Black sentiment content. Remember, you saw his picture. All right, let's see. Metro Nashville police said Wednesday night investigators were probing very concerning online writings on social media. They attempted to determine a motive behind the attack that was partially streamed online. Young lady was fatally shot to death. I think she's Hispanic, non-white. And then it mentions in here, let's see, Henderson, the Black guy, the Aryan Nazi, anti-Jew, anti-Black warrior for Hitler. I mean, this is who comes to slander your character. Can this just be settled? This is the online personality that comes to slander your character, attack the ever-living shit out of you. He was also caught posting a flyer from the Goyim Defense League, which, of course, they say neo-Nazi white supremacist group. They don't add, though, the most telling part of the description, which is a Fed run, a clearly Fed run, in my opinion, of course. He says, I just couldn't take it anymore. He said of himself that he is a worthless subhuman. So, if you learn that you're evil, your people are evil, does that have a deleterious effect on your psyche? Because if it does for blacks, it also does for whites. And that's the conversation we like to talk about. That's the conversation we like to have with folks about the victimization of Western anti-whiteism in the West. So I think maybe that's about enough to share there. We talk about that subject a lot, but I think it's probably enough to share about that. Keep in mind that these communities online that are following and what people end up saying, well, this content creator is better than that content creator. And it's always, their measurement is on the basis of how many followers they have and or a combination of follower count, live count, and how well they prosecute a case against blacks or against Jews. And these are the people populate. These are not like one-offs. This is as popular as hate hoaxes. I mean, how often do we have to find that these people who are the Aryan Nazi, anti-Jew, anti-Black, etc., end up being full-blooded non-whites? But that persona online is for white racial purity. And I think that there's an element to this of a fetish for white women. Like they play that they are for, in this bizarre mindset, they play that they are for this white racial purity, this white empire. They come with these purity tests, and the fuckers are 100% Jewish or 100% Black or 100% Hispanic Peruvian. And they have this fantasy like somehow they'll end up with a beautiful white woman with that mentality. The Jewish guy, as I remember, that was caught years back with hundreds of accounts, how he managed them all. Probably a really bright guy to manage all those accounts. I recall that he said, well, this is what's actually out there, So I was making it more prominent. Oh, is that what it is? It's kind of like the years ago, there was this black guy from down in Georgia, many years back, many. And he said he had witnessed, and you all have to look this up to find the details, because I don't remember all the details. It's one of so many hundreds and hundreds that I've read over the years. This guy traveled all around the country, making a living, giving speeches where? At universities, to university students, especially like Ivy League, who go on to work as apparatchiks, bureaucrats in state and federal and county governments, ruling over you. And he gave this tearfully wretched, awful tale about being 6 or 7 years old. And the Ku Klux Klan came to his house, and they were walking slowly around the house with torches burning in the middle of the night. And they were yelling for the enter to come outside, the enter to come out. They made them all come out of the house. And they grabbed the uncle, this 6-year-old or whatever that tells this tale, his uncle. And they beat him mercilessly in front of the whole family. The kids, the wife, the aunts, the brothers, the etc. Beat him mercilessly, burning him with the torches, screaming for God to save him, screaming for his mother. The story was horrific. And then in front of the entire family, all of this lit by torchlight. Imagine how monstrous this, in your mind, as this vivid picture is created for you. All of these Ivy League university students, this vivid, and all the children watching and crying. The kids are all crying, please stop, don't kill my daddy, don't kill my uncle, don't kill. Then they hang him in front of the family. And the lurid details of the neck growing from the weight of the body and all of this monstrous shit. This guy made a career and then admitted none of it ever happened. But he said, making it up and telling the white America, and therefore the white world, about it was justified. Why? Because that kind of thing was happening. Except where? Except where? Where are the real cases of this? It seems like so many of them, they track them down, and it ends up being like this. No evidence for it happening. No evidence for the person even existing. The person's actually still alive. The person left the family, ran off, committed a crime, and now is in prison. And the impetus behind this guy ending up admitting that it was all fake was for years and years. The sheriff in this town was really affronted that this was being claimed had happened where he was the sheriff. And he was like, damn, that never happened. Damned if I'm going to allow that to stand. So he investigated and hounded this guy as this guy, went all around giving speeches saying, where none of this, I investigated, none of this ever happened. There was no original claim. There's none of this exists. Where is this? What was this person's exact name? And etc. And finally, this clown, after being paid handsomely at these universities for telling this anti-white lie, he finally admits. You'll have to check it out for yourself. I don't remember. It was very popular. It's very well known. You'll have to look into it for yourself. I don't remember. So maybe, the ear's against the door. Maybe I'm just making the whole story up. But do your research, and I feel pretty damn confident that you'll be able to find the exact name of this guy, probably even the name of the sheriff, because back in the day, it was like one and the same on the search engine. Remember, back in the day, the Google search engine wasn't manipulated at all. Frank Weltner's Jew Watch was #1 for years and years and years. Anything you wanted to know, you type in anything about a Jew, anything about Jews, anything on Google for years and years. Frank Weltner's Jew Watch came up #1. So do your research. Make sure that I remember this correctly. But these people, like the Jewish kid, he was also in his teens, and this black kid in his teens, they are making real what is actually happening. And where is it actually happening? In their fiction. Do you see how all this comes together? Do you see how it all works together? So no yielding to these scum. Just know that if you come upon somebody who is slandering us, slandering you, because you don't want to spurg on non-white races, you don't want to play the villain in the anti-white narrative, that their motivation is to get you to play the villain. Just realize that if you talk to this guy, this proud incel, and we all know what community that is, and the GDL advocate, just know that when he's calling you a coward, and when he's calling you a C, and when he is saying that you're a Jew and that you're a Fed because you want to focus on our victimization and putting an end to it, just know that his motivation is to get you to play the villain, because that is their narrative. Don't play into this. Don't give in to these people. How is this being ignored by so many in the white sympathetic sphere? Well, obviously, they know. How is this like crickets? If you look up New York Post, Nashville school gunman 17 who killed teen girl, you will find the totality of that story. Anti-Vilification League is here. Our favorite thing about the beach is that white people generally have numerical courage at the beach. In other words, our people love the beach. We sure do love the beach, and we look gorgeous on the beaches, don't we? White people, we look beautiful with our skin, the tone that it comes naturally. We also happen to look beautiful when we get a tan. Doesn't seem to be so much the case for other groups of people. I didn't make the rules, God did, so you can complain to him. And we remember the times when we've gotten the news about Australia, where there'll be a non-white group, usually it's East Asians, and they're pushing around white people, and then a bunch of white guys would get together. I don't know if that happens anymore, but a bunch of white guys will get together and will say, get the fuck out of here. You're not going to push us around. Not so easy to do. Elsewhere in the world, in the West, around the world, because you're a white guy, you can go and try to grab 100 white guys, and not one will help you. That's because we don't see ourselves as a people, and that's what we have to remedy if we're going to put an end to our victimization. Looks like Clean of White Noir enjoys the shallow water creeks as well, near the beach. And really going back to his childhood, he enjoyed that. All right, if you have an answer for one of these questions, make sure you tag me, and we'll get back to it. We're not going to give up any territory to these godforsaken, anti-white, non-whites playing that they are champions for Aryan purity. And you have to play the villain in the anti-white narrative to be legitimate, because we got your eye on you, black guy, Hispanic guy, Jewish guy. We're watching. Let's hear a little bit of sloth while you share the stream. Give it a like on whatever platform you are on. If you want people to hear more of what we're sharing here, which you're not going to hear anywhere else. Very few places. I guess I should say there are some good people out there. Cindy Ben is here. Dennis. Who else is with us? Eva is here. Welcome. The great Cornell is knocking the house.
tide is turning, this is where we begin. White well-being, we stand tall, unyielding light.
Dan is asking if it was Jacob World. No, I don't think that was it. I might be able to look it up right now.
Through the ashes of light, our truth will ascend. Victory is coming, anti-white will bend. We see their darkness, but it doesn't define the spirit within us, fierce and divine. Every strike they land just sharpens our steel. The dawn of our strength, no more to conceal. In the whispers of courage, our future's bright. No more hiding in shadows, we step into the light. Their towers crumble as we seize the day.
No, I'm not getting it yet.
White well-being rising, clearing the way. White well-being, we stand tall, unyielding light.
If aliens exist with us over here on Premium Rumble, Nationless Nationalist is with us as well. Looks like Janice is over there on Premium Rumble. Hello to you as well over there.
We forge our crown in the halls of power. Anti-whites fall down. With every voice, every hand we reclaim the future of our people, no longer in shame.
Open borders for Israel on Odyssey. Looks like we might have some financial gifts from Odyssey. I don't know if I read those on Sunday.
Depths of doubt, we forge our crown in the halls
Remember to
of
give a
power.
like on whatever platform you are on, and make sure you share the stream with as many people as you possibly can,
Every hand we
because we
reclaim
are being censored into oblivion.
the future of our people, no longer in shame.
Talking about beaches, let's have a quick look at a white woman. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we had a look at a white woman out on a suburban street who thought she could sweet talk a bull jogging down the road. Let's take a look at a white woman trying to maybe bully and correct a bull out on the beach. How did that go for her? Let's have a look. Well, there she goes. Oh, looks like the bull's getting into her things. You see that? Let me embiggen. Looks like the bull's getting into her bag of goodies over here, and she just decides she's going to walk up, give him a little slap on the nose and say, "You naughty little bull. You're a bully." Wonder where this goes. Let's see. She's like, no, don't eat out of my, slap him on the nose. Just take your things away from the bull. You don't take any shit off that bull. Look at, meanwhile, like this guy's back here saying, "What in the fuck are you doing?" She's like, nah. Now the bull's like, I don't think so, bitch. I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have this stuff. She's like, oh shit, maybe if I just drop it, he'll leave me alone. Well, now you've made him angry. Now, uh-oh. Well, I have to stop it right there, ladies and gentlemen. This gets ugly. This gets really ugly. And I think the guys in the video did the appropriate thing by not intervening, because I think at this point, this woman deserved to be taken out of the gene pool. There are probably a lot of white women that deserve to be. When you see this kind of behavior, you're like, what is going on? She gets thrown around a little bit. She doesn't die. But we're not even going to watch the throwing around part, because I'm sure that would be an offense. And the censorial anti-whites at YouTube, and who knows where else, they might show up and say, That was so naughty of you. They're going to come and smack me on the nose. I mean, how condemned you got to be, right? Talk about living in Disney World physics. Just go over there and correct that naughty bull. Does this actually shed a little bit of light on white women saying that they would choose the bear over the man? Do you understand that a little bit more clearly now, where that sort of deep thinking is coming from? I choose the bear. Please do. Please do. If you're one of the white women that choose the bear, you also choose the bull. I hope you choose that. And yeah, there's always this. When and it's not all white women, of course. We have women of the West here in service to white well-being. But I'm talking about a lot of them, right? It's a lot of them, right? When they're not busy choosing the bear and trying to chide a wild bull and also try to sing song one into a lullaby. That woman in that suburbia, she was like, shh, shh, hello. Do you remember that? Shh, hello. Ah! Oh boy. No voting for you. When they're not doing that, when they're not busy doing that, here is a wonderful depiction of white females on social media. Points for those who get this. Points for those. Does this look like some of the white, in fact, many of them, a lot of the MAGA ladies, unfortunately. Does this look anything like them? Who gets it? All right. Taxpayer-funded Catholic groups, we're going to be getting into in a moment. Taxpayer-funded Catholic groups advising the anti-white border crossers who are not here illegally to defy ICE and telling them how they can legally get out of talking with them and being detained by them. Before we get there, though, the swamp purge continues. 60 senior USAID staffers placed on leave. I'll put that up on the screen for everybody to have a look at. USAID, ladies and gentlemen. Arden White says, so many butts online. Yeah. And what's so just ridiculous. I mean, our people are so sick. I just can't even. I got to get more energized here. I've been going without sleep. I was driving. I was like, I can't fall asleep driving, but it was painful. But the West is so anti-white, and the group that is angelized the most is the black race. Everything we learned, if you are under probably 70, your entire life growing up, you learned that everything about blacks is amazing. Everything is about them is amazing. Everything about white people is pathetic and inept, soft and awkward. And everything about blacks is just, it doesn't matter, absolutely amazing. And how did you learn it? It's in the entertainment, but it's also in education, pretty much the same thing, right? And so you look at the black race, and on some of the black race, you see these asses that are like out of this, like double wide needs to be put on the back of them suckers. I mean, it can happen with other races too. ears against the door. But you see this with some people, especially blacks. And then as a consequence, you have all these white females that think then that a gigantic ass is what's most attractive. It's not. And if you have a gigantic ass, you're going to be attractive to people who like gigantic asses. Generally speaking, though, it's not. It's absolutely not. I remember when there was a public access show, that was the first time that people, regular folks, were able to speak to the rest of the population before we had the internet. And there was a show where females would do, and it's in Virginia, these females, and I don't know where else it broadcasted. It was public access, so it's not far. And they would do aerobics, and other women would watch and they would imitate at home. And I saw like 5 minutes of one. My friend's older brother was dating one of the girls that was in the back. And the girl in the front, I remember her saying, you want to do this exercise, ladies, because we all know we want a gluteus minimus. Now, there's actually the gluteus minimus and a gluteus maximus, but generally speaking, gluteus maximus, colloquially, people understand that to be the butt. And what this woman was saying is we want to have a nicely shaped, minimal ass, not this, what is it, a Celebi's crested macaque's ass? You need to look those up. That's like what is considered now in the modern West, like the optimal ass, a Celebi's crested macaque. But now you have them all. They want to have the biggest asses ever. And they're like, they want to show that off. They're like, look how big, look how gigantic I made my ass. Great. The swamp purge continues. Now, these are the people who are in charge of, we're going to race through these a little bit, doling out our money. So these are the apparatchiks, the bureaucrats throughout the bureaucracy in the United States and the rest of the West. And anti-whites have primarily been the drivers of these bureaucracies because, I mean, you just saw, what's his name? James O'Keefe did another one of those expose, and there was a Jewish guy working in the bureaucracy. What was it? I didn't get an opportunity to watch it, but he was working in the state. No, was he working in one of our health departments? And they were talking about RFK coming in, and he said, "Oh, we have all these ways that we can manipulate the people who are appointed by the president and their will. We have all of these underhanded ways." And the girl was like, "Well, what are one of the ways?" Remember, this guy's just talking freely about what they do. It was, I'm sure it's a great video. I want to check it out because O'Keefe is like milling around in the background. You can see him in the video. And she's like, "Well, what's one of the things that you do?" And he said, "Well, we talk about launching a study. That's one of the ways that we undermine the appointments." Well, they're not undermining the appointments of anti-white Democrats or even hardcore anti-white Republicans. They're going to get in the way of anything and everything that will undermine or trouble anti-whiteism. And this guy's saying, well, we just tell them that we'll do a study. And then every time they come back, we're in the midst of doing the study. Reminds me of Johnson admitting last week that he was in a conversation with Biden at the beginning of the previous year where Johnson said, "Why did you cut off natural gas to Europe?" And Biden said, "I never cut off natural gas." And they went back and forth. Johnson was saying, "Yes, you did." And then Biden finally said, "Oh, yeah, I didn't cut it off. They're doing a study." Wow. So USAID, and this is interesting, they dole out our dollars. Dozens of top staffers for the U.S. Agency for International Development I have placed on have been placed on leave, according to reports at the Trump administration, as it continues its efforts to purge federal agencies. I know a lot of people are getting very excited about that. And, my position is that we should be happy about good things, directionally good things happening. We also have to be sober. We have to be mature and know that all of this is taken away in the blink of an eye. If the social morality of the West is not addressed and defeated and supplanted with white positivity, which is what we do in our own minds and in our families and friends and online, if that doesn't happen, then this little blip, it'll be just like that first term with as little as Trump did, was just a blip of speed bump of anti-whiteism's march to the destruction of the West. And then look how bad the anti-whites made it after Trump as a result. Infinitely worse. Not only did they gain back the ground that they had lost while Trump was in office for 4 years, or the ground, I guess, the opportunity cost that they would have had, because nothing was turned back. Everything was undone. But they gained back what the ground they would have made, plus like 5 times more than that with their anti-whiteism while Biden was in office. So a purge is happening now. Another purge can happen in 4 years or 8 years or what have you. And this continues. And if you say to yourself, well, 8 years, well, 16 years, whatever it is, well, that's pretty much, lion's share of a chunk of my life. And so that's good. Then you should start yourself permanently, because you are a selfish SOB. You need to be thinking about our people and our children, not thinking about the children as one of these colloquial badge of honor. I care about the kids. No, literally your deeds are for the future. The decision appears to be triggered by staffers attempting to get in the way of President Donald Trump's orders, according to acting U.S. Aid Administrator Jason Gray, very cool name, first name, who said in an email cited by Politico that they, quote, identified several actions within the U.S. aid that appear to be designed to circumvent the president's executive orders and the mandate from the American people. It gets worse than just undermining what we voted for. And remember, this has always taken place your whole life. You've been voting what you voted for. Your entire life, anti-whites have been undermining it this way, among others. It gets worse because they mention in this article, we won't go through the whole thing, that part of the problem with the world right now and the challenges to the United States is that people in U.S. aid are funneling money, our dollars, who knows what else, to their own particular groups out there in the world, which ends up in these very bizarre scenarios where the U.S., you find out, is funding both sides of a problem that has been created for America. This is how it happens. The United States foreign aid industry and bureaucracy are not aligned with American interests, and in many cases, antithetical to American values. The order reads. So this, of course, is the pushback and the revelation of how USAID actually works, this bureaucracy and the anti-whites that populate it as a consequence of Trump putting a halt on all foreign aid, just the financial part of it, except with the exception of Israel and Egypt. And this is the pushback. And like I said, and the revelation of how all of these problems are being created for the United States, which means problems for us as a consequence of self-interested anti-whites working in the bureaucracy and funneling money to their own particular people, to their own particular movement that they identify with, to their own particular, etc. All become, you probably like I did, grew up thinking that the American government served the American people because your parents didn't have Go Free. They couldn't explain to you what's actually going on in the world. You probably thought it was this unified thing that was serving American interests in everything that it did for the benefit of the American people. Come to find out that government is populated by human beings, and the human beings are all anti-white to various degrees. And some of them are fanatically anti-white, and some of them are mildly anti-white, but they're all anti-white. That's what our children need to learn. But it'll scare them, Jason. They will be frightened by that. Just because you were raised in a nursery up until the age of like 45 doesn't mean that white children need to have that same type of upbringing. They need to know. Somehow Jewish kids are tough enough to take what is told to them by their, not all of them, of course, but some of them, what's told to them by their elders about the world's out to get them and etc. Somehow, where there's no evidence of it, compared to the anti-whiteism in the world. You have to use the Go Free stratagem to inoculate white children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, your little boys and little girls, against anti-whiteism. They need to know the truth about the government. If you don't, somebody else will teach them, and that somebody else is going to be anti-white. Trump fires 18 generals, inspector generals, overnight in legally murky move. And put that on the screen as well. Why did he fire all of these inspectors? What does the inspector general do? Inspector generals are in every single department. And anti-whites know the value of the position. And now Donald Trump does as well. Republicans just didn't give a shit. It was a way for them to allow their efforts against fake foes, to fall on dumb and floppy ears and go nowhere, so that they could go back to so that they would not have an actual enemy trying to take them down that they would have to contend with, but they could go back to their constituency and say, look how hard I tried, but I was undermined. Send me back. Let me have some more time at the trough. And beautiful little interns, whether they're male or female, just send me back. This is so sick. It's absolutely sick beyond imagination. President Donald Trump on Friday fired 18 inspector generals in the federal government, according to a Hannibal Mike Ware, the head of the Council of the Inspector General on Integrity and Efficacy, who was also fired. So what do? They monitor the departments for waste, abuse, etc. And then they take their information to Congress and the media. So these people were perfectly placed, these radical anti-whites were perfectly placed to undermine Trump. This is what this department is doing, and that's what that department is doing. And then you have these big congressional hearings where the inspector generals come and they present their evidence, and it all goes out to the public about how Pete Hegseth is X, Y, and Z-ing over there at DOD, and etc. So to preempt that and prevent that from happening, Trump fired them all summarily. The Biden administration changed the rules, knowing that this was a position of power for Democrat anti-whites. These inspector generals changed the rules on how these folks can be fired. And they made this awkward process about notifying Congress ahead of time and why, so that they could make a big stink about the dictator Trump is doing this, and these are the people who are monitoring the fraud and abuse. And we thought that Trump wanted to end the fraud and abuse. Well, he just must be a gangster. I wish he were. Among those terminated were inspectors general for the Defense Department, State Department. So they would have been talking about Rubio. Bubble Boy, then they would have said, you know what he's doing? He has bubble parties there every week. Every time I come to the work, he's got a bubble party going. The last Wednesday, the bubbles were from the floor to the ceiling. I was getting poked all over. I don't know why the bubble people have that accent. It just happens. Health and Human Services Department, Department of Labor, on and on. When asked why the inspector generals were fired, the White House official said the move was an effort by the president to let go of parts of the past Biden administration and that don't align with the new Trump administration. We're cleaning house of what doesn't work for us going forward. Now, important to mention here, who are the replacements? How anti-white are those replacements? Where will they draw the line on the kind of things that need to be done to actually correct the course of the ship of state? Where will they begin under? Because you don't have a population, a pool to choose from. And that's one of the fallacies of nationalists and content creators, is that there is this other group of people who are pure and they have been unadulterated by these wokey notions. Except we see that in every case, they can't say the name of the white race. So what is the actual quality of the people that will be installed? And what kind of outcomes will we get from them? The legal justification for the firings is murky, given that Congress strengthened protections for inspectors general from undue terminations when it amended the Inspector General Act in 2022. I wonder why they did that. Wonder why they amended that then. So the fight continues and the pushback begins. USDA Inspector General escorted out of her office after refusing to leave. You can't fire me. I can't be fired, says Fong. Security agents escorted the Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Agriculture out of her office on Monday after she refused to comply with her firing by the Trump administration. Is it Cockatoo? Is it this one right here, Fong? Sources familiar with the matter told Reuters. Phyllis Fong. That sounds like a sex act. Phyllis Fong. Did you Phyllis Fong her? No, we don't know each other that well yet. I'm holding off. I'll wait. Maybe she'll want her Phyllis Fonged by the end of the month. A 22-year veteran of the department had earlier told colleagues that she intended to stay after the White House terminated her Friday, saying that she didn't believe the administration had followed proper protocols. How do you like that impudence from Fong? Fong's fuckery. I shouldn't say that. That's terrible. Shouldn't talk like that. I shouldn't do that. I was listening to the devil on the one shoulder. Fornell asked in the live chat, I wonder what the losers of the NJP are doing now. Did they all migrate to Pennsylvania? How would you like to be able to say that to your boss? You can't fire me. You didn't fire me properly. Talk about the impudence, the entitlement. I'm supposed to rule over you white people until you're all gone. So I'm going nowhere. In an email to colleagues on Saturday, reviewed by Reuters, she said the independent counsel of the Inspector General on Integrity and Efficacy has taken the position that these termination notices do not comply with the requirements set out in law and therefore are not effective at this time. Fong fumed. Why didn't they do that with this article, USA Today? You could have had a lot of fun. Fong fumed. Fong, who was fussing, declined to comment. Yeah, so it was Fong. Fong fumed furiously, says Fornell. The White House defended the firing of Fong. Oh boy, this is going to get good. They fired Fong and broke their friendship. And the other inspectors general saying these rogue partisan bureaucrats have been relieved of their duties in order to make room for qualified individuals who will uphold the rule of law. Now, here's something you may say, I don't know if that Jason's right about these other people, and there isn't a good group out there of wonderful, just beautiful angels waiting to be put in positions that will protect white people and will protect all of this, who are not infected with anti-whiteism. I don't believe that he's right. I accept the unspoken premise that he says is false. Really, one of the people they fired was put in that position by Trump. So one of the inspector generals that are rogue and they had to get rid of was a Trump appointment. So no, there isn't. And that's the unspoken fallacy of all of the so-called patriots, of all of the so-called nationalists, of all of the cuck content creators, is that there's some wonderful group of people out there to pick from and restaff everything, and then everything changes. You notice that became their fallback argument during Trump 2017, when that very first year, everything went to the dogs. Trump wasn't able to get anything done. Prior to that, I mean, I had heard the argument before about staffing the bureaucracies with good folks, and I would say, well, where are they? Where are they? If you go, don't point in this room. Where are all of these thousands and thousands of good people to choose from that can perform these roles? Because if you go out into the world, go talk to the average white person. Those are the people that are up for the job. But you notice that the majority of these patriots or nationalists or cucks, prior to Trump, it was all a wish listing for a big leader that would come and fix it all. Then they got their billionaire leader that came to fix it all, a people's revolution paid for primarily, not entirely, but by small donations from his supporters. And they wanted a handful of things, and they got none of them. So then they fell back as the content creators, because they got to have something to talk about to make you think that they're worth listening to again and again and again without being able to glean anything, take anything into your life and improve your life, your family, our country, etc. So then they fall back to, well, the problem was he didn't have the right staff now. I mean, talk about the wish listing that just wants to make me puke. This is the exact same way when you enter some jackass's hypothetical, isn't it? Well, just imagine, if you will, that we control the DOD. Now,
if we control the DOD, then all we need to do then is X, Y, or Z. And then you're like, actually, you know what? You're leaving something out there. Oh, yeah. Now let me account for the thing that you said I left out with some more imagination I have on hand. Shut the fuck up. Seriously, shut the fuck up. But that's what you have. Then it went from all we need is this great leader and everything gets better. And then that happens. And then, well, all we need is the great leader and 50,000, 100,000 pristine, perfect white people with some good non-white people as well to put in all of these roles, and then good things will happen. Well, first of all, you can go ahead and wish your ass off on that list till kingdom come, my friend. That ain't happening. Number two, those people don't exist. So that's your problem. The USDA Inspector General has a broad mandate pursuing consumer food safety, audits, and investigations of the Agricultural Department, as well as violations of animal welfare laws. The USDA, I mean, just along that line there, I have to wonder how many, and this would probably be a question for like Adam Green, how many sects of Jewish people, and maybe he would also know Islamists who have ritualistic killings of animals. How much of that happens in the US? And shouldn't all these people go to prison? I've seen videos of some of the most monstrous things that they do in these ritualistic killings to prepare their meat. And it's nothing that a white person finds acceptable. Our biospirit is revolted by it. Slitting an animal's throat, watching it gallop around for its life, bleeding out of it, frightened and everything. I mean, just monstrous. So shouldn't there be laws to prevent that shit? I mean, I don't give a shit if it's your religion. You don't do that in our land. You don't do that in our country. If you want it, if it's that meaningful to you, get the fuck out. Leave our country. Take that shit back home to the desert or wherever you live. I mean, white people, we get uneasy about like our wealthier, the upper classes, that a big game kill for the trophy when they do their utmost, and most of the time they're successful, to kill with like a single shot. Because we're like, that's like just a trophy. Yes, the animal died instantly thanks to your marksmanship or whatever it is. So at least it didn't have to suffer. But somehow ritualistic animal slaughter is okay. So it seems like wouldn't these be the people then to kind of reach down and bring the hammer of justice? Maybe not. Maybe it's a different group. And I don't know exactly what goes on in these different groups and how they handle animals. Maybe it's a wonderful thing. Maybe they are able to sing them in to unconsciousness and they beautifully stop their hearts. There isn't any pain with a lullaby. I don't know. You'll have to investigate it for yourself. I'm just sharing the videos and the information that I've gleaned over the years, which of course was probably created by AI before AI existed. Broad mandate. In 2022, the Inspector General's office launched an investigation of Elon Musk's brain implant startup Neuralink. Isn't that interesting? That Fong frowned on Elon Musk. One of the many agencies that Musk has had a problem with because he wasn't financing enough Democrat politicians and other anti-whites out there. So Fong frowned furiously on Elon Musk's Neuralink, which remains an ongoing probe. sources said. In recent years, the office has also taken on animal abuse at dog breeders for research labs and the listeria outbreak at Boar's Head. So if they're going after dog breeders, if there's any ritualistic killing, they better be there. You know what I mean? Musk spent more than $250 million to help President Donald Trump get elected in November and has emerged as a key player in the president's orbit. Fong was among the 17 federal watchdogs fired by Trump. So there you have it. That's plenty of news. You don't need to know any more about that, I don't think. But we are at the point of the show, the roll-in, where I have to share with you our other new sponsor, E. David Scott. Let's hear from E. David Scott, another new sponsor for the work that we do here. Take it away, Scott.
Everything happens to me. I think I'm cursed.
If you think your life is jinxed, now you can change it with E. David Scott's curse removal. Call this number and follow simple instructions. Positive forces instantly cast away the evil spirits that bring you bad luck. $1.95 per minute for entertainment only. Under 18, get permission. Call.
Man, we get the best sponsors here. Totally legit. What's the best way we can support you? Asked Mike. Always a great show and much appreciated. Well, I appreciate that. It's even great when I've gone with no sleep. And I'm here with all just nothing but willpower. Nothing but white well-being willpower. What's the best way to the best way to support me? And I'll answer the question literally, is to go free yourself, to implement the Go Free dialogic in your life, to practice it on a daily basis, to free yourself from the trammels of the meme pathogens that you are infected with, these anti-white concepts, so that you can greater access your latent abilities, physical, mental, and spiritual, and to take these newfound abilities and these concepts to your family, to your friends, to your coworkers, to strangers, take it online, and spread these concepts. That is the absolute best way to support what Jason wants. Jason wants to end the victimization of Western kind. Jason wants to recapture our destiny incrementally, as that is the way it can be done, the only way it can be done, and the way that we're making it happen. Now, if you're asking how you can support, you can also bring, maybe you have talents. Maybe are you a musician? Are you a poet? Are you a historian? Are you a philosopher? Can you bring those talents to the work that we are doing? Charity, your time, your effort to be online, like the OT and the people who function like the OT but are private and they do it by themselves. Getting out into different chats, bringing over content creators, and in some cases having to bring their audience first to put the pressure on the content creator. You can do that. If you're asking about how can you support me financially, then you can go to nowhiteguilt.org, click on the financial gift tab, and you'll see options there for financial gifting. And during our gatherings, I keep my eye on Entropy, which is up on our Dude Bro Moment platform, but also known as Entropy, Cash App, Subscribe Star, DLive Odyssey, and Premium Rumble. But if you go to Premium Rumble, no more than $1. You can also donate in addition to financially gifting. You can do that at thefoundationforwhitewellbeing.com or .org. Either will work. You can also find a link to that foundation, a 501c3 that you can use on your taxes, the donation. You can also access it at nowhiteguilt.org. The link is there as well as 5 cryptocurrency wallets. Ethereum is doing really well. Bitcoin, I've got wallets for both. Maybe you want to send a $1 worth of either first to make sure it makes it to me, and then communicate, make sure I got it, and then a little bit more. They're doing well. You do a lot of help with a little bit from either one of those. Thank you for that question. I really appreciate it, Mike. I want you to become the best that you can possibly be and influence those in your life so that they can be the best that they can be for white well-being, that's the only way we're getting out of this. The only way is together. No leaders. No, like, all of us will be leaders, and there'll be people who will situationally do better here and do better there. But we have to be a people, knights of the white table. We have to be swashbucklers. We have to be the champions. We all have to be doing it. And that's how it happens. You notice how when they talk about anti-whites, and very often they'll call them communists or Marxists when they're referring to them this way. And they'll say, they're everywhere. They got into the institutions. They got it. Well, where did they come from? I would ask these people, where did they come from? How did these people become Marxists or communists, you want to call them? They're anti-white to me because it's harming me and my people. So that's what matters to me. Where did they come from? Did they come from pods? How did they become these things? They don't ask these questions. And it's not their fault. They're subgenius. But we do have a 200 IQ, Chris Langan, who just the other day, and we're going to be talking about that shortly, is stepping more and more into the pro-white or white sympathetic arena, as we like to talk about it. We'll hope that he'll decide to want to have a conversation with yours truly. But we'll see. Janice is in the live chat tagging me. Just got a notification from another channel that a plane crashed into a helicopter in DC. What? Does anybody have a link for that? Somebody get me a link. DM it to me. Text it to me. A small aircraft crashed near Reagan. A lot of people don't understand because they say that Reagan is in DC. It's actually in Virginia. It's just across the river, though. So that's why I say in Arlington, Virginia, on Wednesday night, landing in the Potomac River. Initially, as I hear this, as I read this, it reads like incompetency. I get recommended videos of the audio of towers talking to airplanes and near crashes and everything. And you won't be surprised how many of the instances are, okay, Kate just hooked me up. How many of the instances are anti-white hires? I mean, the one I just watched the other day was a plane was taxiing across, but in those like short runways or short road, causeway between runways. And the guy, you could hear him talking to the plane and its number and the plane landing at the runway. He tells the plane taxiing, okay, stop there, flight whatever is landing. You got 100+ souls on this flight. The guy's like, all right, I'm coming in. And then the guy in the tower tells the taxiing plane to stop again. Keeps coming. And finally, the guy in the tower started screaming at the plane taxiing. And this guy comes in with this much larger plane, lands, and that plane stops just in time. And then finally, the pilot, a little girl, radios back. Whatever she's supposed to say back to the tower at that point. So not surprised. There's a lot of incompetence, a lot of white erasure happening. But the cucks will say it's DEI. Let's see. Ground stop in effect at Reagan National Airport after a small aircraft crashes into the Potomac River. Oh boy, that's going to be cold. Everybody's going to die. Small aircraft crashed Reagan National Airport, Washington on Wednesday night. Fire and EMS said a small aircraft in the vicinity of the airport had crashed into the Potomac River. Fireboats are currently on the scene. It is not known at this time if anyone was injured in the crash. Well, they're going to die in that water if you don't get them fast. Airport is closed until 11 p.m. due to an aircraft emergency. All flights are under a ground stop. I don't see anything about the helicopter, but I guess, did the small aircraft hit the helicopter? Is that what you all are reading? Oh, yeah. Fernald mentioning Menendez sentenced to 11 years as he bawled in court. They just were giving him a bunch of gold bars. What's the big deal? Just a little corruption. Taxpayer-funded Catholic group urges illegal aliens to refuse to comply with ICE officers. That is coming up next. And then we have Christopher Langan and his tweet. But before we have, for some of you, this might be kind of tough. I mean, I know the Catholic taxpayer-funded group is urging the illegals to refuse to comply with ICE officers, but I'm afraid I have to report this to you. I know it's a shame. They got her. They got her. I know for some of you it's going to be hard. Dora the Explorer dragged off by ICE. Let's take a look at the last item before we get to Chris Langham. If it will appear for me, it will appear for you. There we go. Catholic Charities of Milwaukee has posted a video to social media urging illegal migrants, anti-white intruders, to refuse to comply with the legal orders of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE officials, and even misleadingly claimed illegals are not legally required to comply. Video is narrated by Barb Graham, who calls herself an attorney at Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee and the Refugee and Immigration Service Program. Why do they have that? Like, just stick to your religion. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi, my name's Barb Graham, and I'm an attorney.
And I am an anti-white C word. And by that, I meant Catholic. Catholic.
At Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee and the Refugee and Immigration Services Program. This is a video about knowing your rights if Immigration and Customs Enforcement approaches you. All people living in the United States, including people who are undocumented, have certain rights under the United States Constitution. If immigration officers, what we sometimes call Immigration and Customs Enforcement or ICE, come to your workplace, they must have a valid search warrant or the consent of your employer to enter non-public areas.
All right, so they contest her claims here about what's legal and what's not legal in this article. I actually want to look at a couple other things before we get to the Chris Langham. She's got a trembling voice, says Eva. Yes, she does. They contest. They say, no, she's actually legally incorrect in what she's advising. But the point being that here you have more anti-white groups. They come in all varieties. I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, but they're actually Jew Catholics. Shut up. Shut up. Start yourself. So more part of the pushback. We have Trump coming on hard, and you have the anti-whites are pushing back, not hearing about that as much. And part of the pushback is this: the DOJ sent top officials to Chicago to investigate possible sanctuary city interference with ICE raids, which sounds kind of interesting, kind of the thing they should be doing all along. Now, of course, it is a seditious city. That's how we refer to it. We don't give them, when we talk about sanctuaries, what's our lived experience? That's the effect it has on 99% of our emotions 99% of the time that we're alive, because that's the subconscious mind. So that's what we work with. The anti-whites cast dark magic with their spells, and we cast white magic in response. You know, this is like having an actual talisman that keeps, you know, I know that E. David Scott is one of our new sponsors, and he wants to tell you psychically how, but this is like legitimate talisman work here. You can protect yourself. So possible seditious city interference with ICE raids. One of the DOJ's top dogs was on the ground on Chicago during a deportation raid this weekend to look for possible interference by officials in the seditious city. Acting Deputy Attorney General Émile Beauvais, is that right? Traveled to the Windy City over the weekend after threatening to investigate and potentially prosecute seditious leaders who obstruct ICE operations. So wouldn't it be better? They're going to prosecute seditious city leaders. I can't believe I have to explain. I've been explaining for so many years. It just goes on. Whoa, holy shit, they sent the Reaper? Man, Trump means business. He said the Grim Reaper to make sure that they were obeying. Holy hell. Chicago's seditious laws prohibit cops from arresting people because they're in the country illegally and blocks them from sharing information with feds about known illegal immigrants in most cases. So will the Grim Reaper be able to prosecute them? And if he is able, will he prosecute them? I guess we're going to find out. I mean, you saw in the press pool, they're now going to allow some social media. Now, keep in mind, though, I know a lot of people are really excited about, I know cucks are losing their mind. They saw a little Caroline, come out of the television, Caroline. Mommy, where's Caroline? She's in the television. I hear Caroline's voice in the television. What'd the old woman say? I'm going to get sleepy drunk. What'd the old woman say? What was the line from that movie? This house is now clear. That, I tell you what, if you set a child on the kitchen floor and they slide across it by themselves, I am packing and I'm out of there. I am gone. No investigation. Was it clean or clear? Because I think the terminology they use in these communities is clear. It's clear. This house is now clear. Because Caroline got eaten up by the television. And that should be a warning to you kids. Never sit too close to the television. It'll suck you right in. Then you'll be nothing but a faint voice behind white noise. But then again, maybe the Grim Reaper can go get you out. I don't know. How did we even get on to breaking news? Passenger aircraft crashes. That's what we're talking about, SN. We just mentioned it. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Oh, yeah, back to my point. Caroline Levitt, dominated by no white guilt clips, made Caroline his bitch, and the entire room of cucks was a beautiful thing. Champion in this community. She said, and now she's standing there all like cute, 24 or whatever she is, her little feet side by side. She's like, and now Now, this chair will be reserved for a rotating social media. Now, what did I just tell you about 2025 and social media? It's all controlled. It's all financed. The audience is controlled. The people in the pews, the people in the commentariat, it's all controlled. And now you're going to let social media in there. What a big victory. The independent media. Boy, white people are such boobies. You are fat, flabby boobs. You know that? You're like, yay. Now we have the alternative media in there. Little Caroline said it so. But they didn't do the real thing, like kicking out CNN and pulling even the license so they can't even practice news anymore. How about do something real? So will they do something real with Beauvais, the Grim Reaper? Will they literally let him prosecute sanctuary city officials enforcing illegitimate seditious city officials prosecuting seditious city laws, applying them? Will they do that? We'll see. He looks like he could be mean. Émile Beauvais. Everybody knew when this seditious city thing started, everybody was like, you can't disobey the government. But of course, they weren't, because the federal government and the state governments are peopled, their employees are all anti-white. So the federal government is like, yeah, go ahead, do that. In contravention to the laws of the land, we just won't apply the laws of the land to you because that's a moral anti-white conclusion that you're arriving at. Should have listened to Jason. Final item before our 200 IQ Chris Langan. Trump orders a review to identify, punish, and deport anti-whites. Oh, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Sorry. Don't know how I did that. Identify, punish, and deport anti-Semites, including students on visas. So if you want to be mean about Jews, you're getting thrown out if they can throw you out. Being dreadful, evil, mean about white people, that's still A-okay. You can go ahead and do that. Let's have a look at that.
The House Education Committee is holding a hearing on campus anti-Semitism. It marks the first time public universities like UCLA and Rutgers and Northwestern are represented. This as Jewish students say they no longer even feel safe at school.
There's been violence every single day. I've seen chants of them, in a circle chanting Intifada.
And if UCLA administration is not going to do anything, if LAPD is not going to do anything, we're going to do something about it.
I haven't seen schools making sure that the students are heard super loud and super clear without feeling scared.
Ezra Pfeffer is a recent Rutgers graduate, and we're so glad to have you here. I want to show everybody a map here. This is colleges where anti-Semitic protests have occurred.
Now, look at this. Fox News has a map about where anti-Jew sentiment has occurred in America. Never going to have a map until we are victorious about where anti-whiteism appears. Of course, that would be the entire West. All of the states of America, all of the provinces of Canada, everywhere. But there's a problem. You have this tiny, insignificant, nothing of an issue, massive weight, massive attention. How do we get here? Why is this happening? Because that group of people has a people. The white race doesn't. So it's our fault. We need to take responsibility to change things.
And that's a pretty extensive map. Ezra, for you, in your experience at Rutgers, and the Rutgers leader is going to be on the Hill today, what did you experience in the last few months?
Well, specifically with encampments and everything that's been going on campus regarding the Palestine versus Israel situation, people who have been in these encampments have decided to take it more down the Jewish route. They've gone totally against the Jewish people. They have signs saying F the Jews. They have signs saying death to Jewish people.
I want you to note what the Jewish guy here is identifying and from what perspective he's using. What's his lens? Who is he centering?
Which is completely unrelated to what they're actually, trying to protest. I'm a big fan of allowing people to express how they feel. I think everybody has a right to protest, but once you take it to a religious thing and
that statement right there, obviously for public consumption, meaningless.
Make it a matter of anti-Semitism and not a matter of trying to resolve what issue that you're protesting for, it's simply unacceptable.
Now imagine a calm, cool, collected college student, Rutgers, white guy, talking about all the anti-whiteism at the school. And he endorses freedom of speech, but this anti-whiteism is toxic. It's targeting white people. It wants to victimize white people, and he is firmly against it and finds it unacceptable. And then, like what happens here, billionaire white guys show up and they say, it is unacceptable. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to throw a bunch of money at your fraternity. I'm going to come in there. I'm going to throw a bunch of money to get rid of the president, the dean, etc. at the university so that we can protect the white children there. Imagine that. That's the path to victory. Hating this guy is self-destruction.
Do you have a comment about Rutgers, the leadership's reaction and how they handled what was happening in the last couple of months?
So it's interesting you mentioned that. The encampments were going on for a few days, and they had signs there, as I mentioned before, saying F the Jews, death to Jews, et cetera, et cetera. And it was only when the encampments impacted the finals of over 1,000 students is when they decided to shut it down. Now, if Rutgers were to take action in the beginning to shut it down just because of blatant anti-Semitism, it wouldn't have even gotten to that.
Please continue to notice how a member of a tribe, of a people, functions. Continue to notice it's not, like I say, it's a percentage of Jewish people that do this wonderful thing. It's a percentage of black people that do this wonderful thing. It's a percentage of all of the other groups that do this wonderful thing. I want you to notice, what is he not doing? What is he not saying? Who is he not focusing on?
So I think just a combination of just being a little bit oblivious towards anti-Semitism and just shutting it down for the wrong reasons are two of the things that I'm referring to.
So live right now, and you're about to go over to Capitol Hill, but right now you see Virginia Fox. She's the congresswoman from.
So he's going to go over to Capitol Hill. How is that happening? Because there are elected representatives who either they're Jewish or they depend on Jewish donors or they think it's just immoral to condemn and to go after people on the basis of their birth. And in this case, it being Jewish people on the basis of their birth. And so they're going to bring this guy over. Would that happen for a white person? And if not, who's at fault? We are at fault. I know white people hate hearing that. Being an adult, all these children, and certainly like the black Aryan Nazi member of that incel community that's proud of being an incel and also distributing GDL leaflets, being a leafleteer for them. I know he would tell you, no, what you've got to do here is you've got to complain endlessly about the power of the Jews. They're too powerful. Do you see how powerful they are?
From North Carolina. And she's the chair of this committee, and she's been very strong. And she said this, that the committee has a clear message for mealy-mouthed, spineless college leaders. Congress will not tolerate your dereliction of your duty to your Jewish students. Ezra, you have graduated. Congratulations.
That would be so nice. for there to be a white politician to do that for us, wouldn't it? Guess we better get busy.
Thank you.
Are you worried about the students that will be coming up behind you?
It is interesting because, I have had a lot of positive Jewish experiences on campus with the Chabad house and the Hillel house. There have been a lot of great times as a Jewish student. Unfortunately, with what's going on in today's society and what's going on campuses across America, especially at Rutgers, it's kind of hard for me to confidently recommend Rutgers to younger Jewish high school students or express, excitement for the incoming freshmen and even sophomores. So I think we're in a very difficult position right now. Rutgers has easily one of the top 5 highest Jewish populations out of all colleges in America. And it's very concerning that President Holloway has done not much, only just released statements. He sort of brushed.
All right, so you see how a people view themselves and their place and how they center themselves in their evaluation of their environment, of their context. That's what a healthy people does. If you want to yell at me, if you want to slander me for pointing it out that this Jewish guy's doing it and that there are black people and Asian people who do it and mestizo people who are doing it, if you want to yell at me for that, then you are the tar, you're the vegetable in the room. And so as a consequence of being a member of a people, you have the President of the United States, who his audios are replete from beginning to end with America first, America first. It's all America first. And what does he do? The funding continues to Israel. The funding continues to Egypt, continuing to pay off Israel, and probably has something to do also with moving more Palestinians into Egypt. It sounds like what Trump wants to try to do is to move Palestinians to Jordan and to Egypt and let Israel just take the rest, build condos. Over here in the States, the Fox, everything, as CNN, MSNBC, they're all falling all over themselves. Trump steps up and says, anybody criticizing Jews is going to be thrown out of the country. If you're here with a visa, you're a student or whatever it is, you participate in any anti-Jew rally, you're thrown out of the United States. That's what we want for us. Spending a minute, spending a second on slandering groups getting what they want by way of a particular mechanism is self-destructive. And slandering those who are achieving for our people because they don't want to follow you down your self-destructive path is evil. That's all there is to it. And you need to be moved aside because nature has decided that you and the genetics that brought you into being are an affront to survival. So get out of the way. You are slated for oblivion. The bottleneck is not going to allow white people through that continue to be selfishly individualistic. That's the end of that strain in our people, or it's the end of our people. And it doesn't matter how many times you say, well, if we could only all have our own countries. God. Cool Papa J Magic is in the house. I think we need to lighten things up with a little bit of a joke here. An oldie but a goodie.
Happy birthday to Nick Gurr, if you're watching. Someone in chat wants me to say that. Happy birthday, Nick Gurr. All right.
Old Nick Gurr. and a little bit of tunage, and we're going to bring on Chris Langham's post. Be reading our financial gifts here soon. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the gathering. Juliet is here. Says, no, you're on it. We must assert ourselves specifically and confidently, full stop. Absolutely. Talking about ourselves, talking about how anti-white these universities are, how they're victimizing us endlessly. Donald Trump needs to step in and end the anti-whiteism, which is the real problem in America. Not this bit worth of anti-Jew sentiment from people with no power. The anti-whites, you have anti-whites in the United States across the West with infinite power. Who are the people who are anti-Jew? How much power do they have? Give me a break. Did you get an opportunity to see the questions of the day? Have you experienced falling down the stairs? How old were you? What happened? How bad was it? Tag me as No White Guilt if you have an answer. And how about the beach? What do you like most about the beach? Tag me with your answers. JK160 is here. Anonymous is here.
In her light, we find our direction. Yeah, she's the one. She's the truth we need. A biospirit force. We refuse to concede. No more shame. No anti-white.
I've been helping out James Dean asking about Christians in the community, and yes, there are many Christians in this. Let's get out some raucous emojis, ladies and gentlemen. On your feet. Cacophonous emojis, quadruple 07s for the one and only Dude Bro Moment. 50 white well-being dollars. Working man says the white well-being over here on the platform that is his namesake. Dude Bro Moment. Showing love. Let's get him some crowns and gems. Dedicate the song to him. Keep it going as well for Corey. $25. $25 for the great Corey. Give it up for Corey. Raucous emojis, quadruple 07s, cacophony. Make it cacophonous. Show the love to these two gentlemen. Thank you so much. Real heroes of white well-being. Matt Murray is with us. Thank you all for celebrating Dubro Moment and Corey. Corey says, thanks for the midweek energy boosting broadcast. You are most welcome, my brother. Most welcome. Corey and Dude Bro Moment. We also have the Great Slots. Over here, $5 financial gift from the Great Slots. Wonderful to see you, champion. Stiff salute to one of my many heroes in our community. God bless you. Spinning around, seeing if we got anything else. I think what I'll do is I'll save those from last Sunday for next Sunday that were on Odyssey. So if you are Who'da Thunk It and Land of the Fake, and those are the people who also open borders for Israel. All of you I will read this coming Sunday. Thank you all for those gifts. I did not see them in time. last Sunday. Here's an aside for fun. We've often heard that white people couldn't have come to the Americas, known as the Solutreans or the Iberians. They couldn't have done that because it was cold and people just couldn't live in that little ice age. They couldn't cross an ice sheet and eating the seals that were eating all of the fishes that were eating the plankton that live at the edge of ice sheets. They couldn't do that. Well, somebody created an AI depiction of the Sir Shackleton story of the Endurance. Maybe you all know of that. Just take a quick look at this.
14 to 1917 Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition stands as one of history's greatest tales of survival. Shackleton aimed to cross Antarctica, but
our people, by the way, just pointing this out.
The Endurance became trapped in pack ice in the Weddell Sea and was eventually crushed.
Okay, let me jump in. What did Shackleton not do? He didn't complain that other people were sailing and achieving their objectives. Just pointing that. I can't believe I have to point that out, but I just wanted to point that out.
Stranded on the ice, Shackleton and his 27-man crew faced unimaginable conditions. For nearly 2 years, they survived on drifting ice floes, enduring freezing temperatures and near starvation.
So, a group of men set sail. If you know the story of the Endurance or not, look into it. It's a fascinating, very empowering. It's definitely about the spirit of the West inside of us, our voyage, our will to conquer that which seeks to conquer us. It's a beautiful thing. Really highlights the biospirit of the West. These people at that period in history were not accustomed to living in the Arctic temperatures. They didn't, that's not how they lived. That's not how we lived. We had homes, we had heat, we had various types. We had like butcher shops, and we had, I mean, it's not like it is today, but it was far more civilized than we were when we crossed that ice shelf, when we were born, lived, and died on the ice. So if these men who lived at a time when you literally went to a butcher shop and you got your food and you had your oil and you heated your, and you had all of this, all of the, at that time, the contemporary tools of civilization. If they could be stranded out in that environment and live for 2 years, then easily our ancestors who lived their entire lives outside in the frigid temperatures could cross the ice shelf. I rest my case. The Solutreans have spoken. Over here on Raucous, says Clean of White Noir. Raucous over there on X. We're raucous everywhere. JW, loving the content. Thank you so much. Clean of White Noir, accurately noting that for that Jewish student, Jewish well-being is what he was centering. Isn't that something? If you do have an answer for either of those questions of the day, please share. Let's take a look at Chris Langan. Have you all heard of him? You can go online when we're done here shortly and look him up, and you'll find he is the 200 IQ man, highest IQ in the world, a white man. He posted this just yesterday. Question: what are your thoughts on the future of the white race and how we can reclaim our former glory? Isn't that exciting? He's got like 100,000 subs, I think. Now, as I read through his answer that he gives here, some things to consider. What you'll see if you are a regular practitioner of Go Free is like those first steps into the different layers of remedying. And so you'll see what we refer to as some wish listing. And he's detailing this needs to change, that needs to change, but all of those things that need to change beg the question, which is fine because he's getting started down this path. If 20 years from now, he's still saying, well, this needs to be done, then it would be most upsetting. So I'd like to have a conversation with him if we can make it happen. I'll read a few of these and you can tell me what you think about the answers that he gives on how to reclaim our former glory. Let me look through the first. Last is with us. Hello, brother, and welcome. Good to see you. Let me make sure I didn't miss any tags. Cindy Ben says, I fell down my grandma's stairs when I was 3. Hit my head on her kitchen table. Doctor said to watch for concussion, but I was okay. Wow. That's scary. Could you imagine your 3-year-old cartwheeling down the steps? Damn. Mestizo Carve chimes in. Good to see you, brother. With a question. The question number 2 about the ocean. Favorite thing is the cool breeze from the ocean. Yeah, the wind is blowing. So even when it's really toasty on the beach, that's always welcome. Cool Papa J Magic says, never fell down the stairs, but I have a false memory about doing front flips down my staircase when I was way too young to actually be doing that. I really remember it vividly. Yeah, you dreamt it. Yep, false memories happen for all of us. That's crazy, man. And thank you for being, of course, Cool is going to be a mature adult man of the West about it. You'll meet people, you probably have, that will share their false memories as though they really happened. And you're like, yeah, I'm never trusting you to take care of my pet while I'm gone. Much less babysitting. No. You're kind of you're kind of sus. Oh, yeah. First Last also has 2 other meme curatives that he's trying out, Race Ruse and Hope Hoax. He might detail what each is in the live chat. We are a work in motion. We are a team. We are machinery. We are this epic white, just like Shackleton and his crew. We are a team working together, and we succeed. So let's see what Chris had to say here. His answer to his own question is, the white race has proven its raw ability to succeed, just as it alone has proven its ability to build modern civilization and develop modern science and technology to their present heights. Let me jump down really quickly. Let's see. Who do we see down here? See if we see some of our swashbuckling heroes. Oh, there's the blue flame. Swashbuckling champion. If you do interviews or like to reach out to people, I suggest these profiles. It's all about white well-being for our people. Cheers. Let's get an 07 for the blue flame. Epic swashbuckling, my friend. Throws in a great meme there, Lord of the Rings meme. What does your heart tell you? That my people must live on. I love it. The blue flame. There's Samuski is there. And there's Southern Bloom. 07s for these champions. We can reclaim our destiny to become a people again by making it socially and morally unacceptable to engage in anti-white rhetoric or practices. And I guess we do that with no white guilt. And we at No White Guilt are busy doing just that. Beautifully written, Samuski. Enough of condemning Western kind on the basis of our birth. Beautifully written. Southern Bloom chimes in. Champion. Definitely reach out to No White Guilt and WG. He has stellar takes on this topic. Many would love to hear, I'm sure. Epic swashbuckling. I don't know if I saw any other community members. If you're there, though, and you're with us, you can let us know. I think Tread, white male, not necessarily in the community, but he is, I think if that's him, good guy and a fan, and that makes him a fan of him. Chris goes on. There is no question that on a level playing field, we can reclaim our culture, our genetic hygiene, our national territory, our government, our education system, our media, our destiny, our history, and all of our former glory as therein described. Now, I've got a little pushback to that, in that a level playing field would have to also mean that we see ourselves, we live as a people. Because if we just take away, and I don't know that's what he means, but if he's implying that we just take away the anti-whiteism in hiring, the anti-whiteism in business loans, small business loans, the anti-whiteism in education, if we just take away the anti-whiteism, take away the anti-whiteism in the telling of history and the white guilting of our kids, if we just take all of that away, then we'll suddenly excel and do better. No, the reality is that in a world of collectives, individualism is suicide. So if white people, even beginning in this theoretical space, if we had a level playing field, we would be, individual whites would be able to jump out, and groups of whites would be able to jump out and have great success. But they would all eventually be overcome by the collectives, by the people seeking individual well-being by way of group well-being. In a world of collectives, you cannot be a selfish individualist. We can do that if we're the only people, no one else is allowed in the country, or no one else is even on the planet. Then the selfish individualism benefits our people, because we have this part of us that is selfishly individualistic, but then this other part of us that wants to take care of the other. And those two things together are part of our instinct. That is what culture is. Our culture is your instinct, your people's instinct on your environment, not your IQ. So I disagree with Jared Taylor. I disagree with everybody who says that your culture is your IQ. It is your instinct. In fact, I got to pause here. We'll come back to Chris. He's not going anywhere. But I got to show you this. Take a look at culture for the bowerbird. This is the bowerbird's nest.
This is an incredibly artistic structure, but this exquisite masterpiece wasn't created by humans. It was built by a flame bowerbird. This is the courting bower he has meticulously constructed, spending weeks on his creation. Even before the bower is complete, it has already attracted a female bird.
Now, remember how I've explained this over the years. Depending upon the complexity of the animal, the expression of its instinct on its environment is its culture. So the more complex the animal, like a human, although I believe we have spirits, we are in animal bodies, the more complex the animal, the more complex the expression. So we have symphonies, we have high culture, we have low culture, we have different types of architecture that in that style, those styles change over time, because we're able, with that complexity, to envision new versions of the way we build a cathedral or a church or a temple or a government building, etc. The bowerbird's intelligence and the complexity that it brings, motivated by its instinct, builds this. They not only build this nest as an expression of its culture, but they'll also collect colored items, berries. They'll collect little pieces of plastic. You can research these animals and see a variety of things. Sometimes they'll set up piles of different colors of items by the nest to attract the female to this display of culture. What are we really doing when it comes right down to it? When we build great and glorious things, I mean, this expression of ourselves is to perpetuate what we are. And that's what the bowerbird is doing. But you might say to yourself, but Jason, I don't see how, for example, a chimpanzee or a dolphin has culture. And that's because your understanding of culture is too narrow. You might even be looking at this, the architecture of this nest, and concluding that it's too narrow, and so I don't see culture. You need to broaden your understanding of all animal life, and then you'll see that what we do is the exact same thing that they do, and that the more complex the animal, the more complex the culture. The less complex the animal, the less complex. But there are caveats. You have things like their context, like in the water, for example. Is it easy to build a structure in the water? Well, for a dolphin, probably not. But what are mating dances? What are certain calls? We have finally discovered that different pods, even of dolphins, of killer whales, they have different dialects. I was reading not long ago that there were pods of, I don't know if it was blue whale or sperm whale or whatever it was, and they have a dialect within their own pod, but then a broader dialect of calls and sounds when they communicate with other pods. So, if you will, words that are more broadly known, and then words that are more narrowly known, shibboleths for their pods. So this is what you're actually seeing. Culture is the expression of our instinct in and on the context of our environment. In other words, if we were in an ice world, we wouldn't build stone structures. It probably wouldn't be very easy to build a cathedral. But we would still express that instinct as best as that environment would enable us to express it, or would allow us to express it, given the limitations, given the hardship of the climate, what's available to us. So you had this guy that was a couple weeks ago was on with Yiz on Discordant Dragons, and he tried to claim, at least briefly, that anybody can be taught any instinct. Yiz was saying accurately that Black people can't perpetuate the West, that individual Black people can imitate our expression. We see that everywhere, just like I could go and imitate the Chinese expression or the Japanese expression or the Iranian expression. But if they all suddenly disappeared tomorrow, I would not be able to perpetuate their cultural expression. All I would be able to do is either take the things that they had already done and reintroduce them, because the moment I began to interpret and express what was coming from my instinct, it would no longer be Chinese, Japanese, or Iranian. It would now be the expression of a Westman. So this is the bowerbirds' culture.
The male immediately begins his first performance. However, the male knows that's not enough. In the bird world, this blue fruit is equivalent to a bouquet of flowers. Everything seems to be going well until another male bird shows up and interrupts the performance.
They get into some back and forth, and this bird goes and finds some more blue berries to entice the female, and ends up succeeding with more bouquets of flowers. The culture. Other birds do different things. The expression of instinct is culture. I have been right on this all along. Nowhere else could I find, in fact, that other people saying this. In fact, I have been not shouted down, but I've been argued against with the argument that no one else says this, Jason. Why do you think this is the case? Why would you think? You're alone on this, Jason. There isn't some dead guy that has researched it, some scientist, some academic somewhere that has said that it's the case. So you're obviously wrong. You look like you were in shape, Jason. You're probably just a bodybuilder. You're probably just a bouncer. In fact, somebody you know very well in the white sympathetic sphere, a really good guy, referred to me as that one time. Guess who else served as an actual bouncer? I never worked as a bouncer, but Chris Langan with 200 IQ did. Promethean hails to the great white will, for white well-being is with us. Great to see you, brother. Have a pristine end to the gathering. Yeah, we're wrapping it up. Cindy Ben is brilliant. She says, Jason makes total sense. Precisely. Thank you. Let's pull up Langan again, and we'll get to a couple more of his observations. He says we can start the process by, for example, now the process of regaining our glory. He says deporting all illegals, and in extreme cases, their U.S.-born children along with them. We've also recommended that. He says, and then tell me if you haven't heard this recommendation here as well. Reversing the post-1965 changes. What did I just say on Sunday? I just said review all of these people that have come in since the Hart-Celler Act, and if they've been on welfare, if they've been in prison, etc., they're gone. Throw them out of the country. It was illegitimate to transform the ethnic makeup of the United States. And so we can immediately address the people who were on welfare since the Hart-Celler Act, in prison or whatever. They can all go. He says, reverse the 1965 changes to U.S. immigration law and setting high bar for citizen and for legal immigration. Reversing all affirmative action and DEI-related changes to public and corporate policy. Now, what does Chris mean by that? Reversing it. Does he mean just getting rid of it? Or does he mean that the new affirmative action should be hiring white people? Now, this, in this community, we know that's a wonderful wish. But what Chris is doing here is he's laying out, as he's taking these first steps in this direction, what he thinks at the point of his hypothetical needs to be done to proceed from that point forward to the objective that he stated. Now, before that point, though, this is where it begs the question. How do you reverse for how do you get a new white positive affirmative action. We'll read a couple more of these and we'll see what you think. Keep an eye out for any more financial gifts. And I see Nationless Nationalists. We got a good conversation going over there on Premium Rumble. Remember, tag me if you have any comments specifically for me. And thank you for participating over in that live chat so much, brother. You're tearing it up. 07. Chris writes on, reviewing the appointments and official actions of all federal personnel with an eye to removing traitorous mole rats opposed to the interests of America and the descendants of its founders. So traitorous mole rat, anti-white. He would be, think of the power he would wield with these concepts. Attaching rational literacy and loyalty requirements to voting rights, thus excluding non-English speakers, illiterate, violence-prone hood rats. That's a very particular type of rat. Itinerant welfare, dependent baby mama daddy, so they're wandering on the welfare, and non-white ethnocentric ID political hucksters due to their innate conflicts with the U.S. Founding Fathers, the Constitution, the hereditary U.S. majority, and everything American. So what he's saying here, non-white ethnocentric. He's excluding the non-white people who function as a people. You get rid of the non-white people who function as a people, then you have non-white people who are individualistic like white people. But conservatives have been trying to convince non-white people to be individualistic for eternity. Literally, the white race has been trying to assimilate Jewish people for thousands of years. It doesn't work. But in his hypothetical, he's saying you get rid of the ethnocentrism, and I interpret him saying ethnocentrism as non-white people who say my well-being by way of my people's well-being. You get rid of that and you have nothing but individualistic non-whites left, then you're at that playing field where he says white people will excel. Because otherwise, if you have these ethnocentric tribal percentages of non-white groups who are actual peoples with their collective, as we were saying earlier, will easily overcome the individualistic, selfishly individualistic white people, which is, of course, the case. He's right. Democracy doesn't come free, as its inventors well understood. And also the part about like tests for voting rights, that's a difficult thing. I have vacillated on that a little bit. I kind of like voting less than having a test for people to vote. There's obvious problems with even a republic and voting. A democracy is an absolute mess. That's just controlled by the people who disseminate information. But voting in and of itself, if you set up a system where you have you have to pass these tests in order to vote, eventually you could have individuals come into power who would add things or take things out of that test to exclude. And you could imagine the problems as a result. But again, this is kind of like hypothetical. He has a starting point in his mind, and then from that starting point forward, he is imagining these would remedy the problem. But we still have the questions that have been begged before getting to that starting point. Democracy doesn't come free. It has certain indispensable moral, intellectual, and civic requirements. I mean, our founding fathers talked about this, that the above groups neither understand nor respect. A major part of the problem is that these groups don't seem at all agreeable to improvement, but keep blaming all their well-deserved troubles on Whitey. So he's right on the money. He just needs anti-whiteism, anti-white, and the different concepts that we use. It's all about blame. So what did Chris Langan, 200 IQ, just say? Everything that they do, and they achieve, they fight for, and then celebrate once they get it, is based in what? Retributive justice against the white race, i.e. blaming Whitey. That's what he just said. He finishes that paragraph with, they need to shape up or ship out, removing the abilities of banks, corporations, and their proprietary global occupation government to buy up the U.S. pseudo-government, interfere in majority governance, fix elections, and democratize majority U.S. citizen with totally impunity. Demonize majority U.S. citizens, meaning us, with total impunity while pretending that they have a just cause to illegality, flood us with alien interlopers who hate our guts. Why do they hate us? Why aren't they showing up and saying, God bless the white race? My mother had cancer, and we came here, and the white race took her right into one of their hospitals and fixed her right up. Imagine if there was a civilization, angels, on an island, Atlantis, and you got to, they gave out like a certain number of immigrant cards to the general population, and you got to go live there. You got to go be a paper citizen in their country, and you got to benefit from their health care. You got to benefit, which is superior to everywhere else. And you got to benefit from the civility, superior to everywhere, and the organization, superior. And then finally, your poor mother writes, and she's dying. She has an illness that can't be cured back home. And you go and you beseech the people in the country in which you now live, and they say, yes, your mother can come and get treated and be healed. You would be over the moon. You would be beyond grateful. But instead, we don't get that. And the reason we don't is anti-whiteism. Everything that we've ever done, everything that we create, everything that we envision, everything that we create, not only in the past, but every second with our existence, with our instinct, is consigned in the anti-white narrative to theft, exploitation, rapine, on and on. Restricting the influence of various secret societies and the Communist Party, a bankster takeover, the world scam hostile to self-determination and as reprehensible as the monopoly supercapitalism that spawned it. So now he has sort of segued from the hypothetical starting here to an even further down the line hypothetical starting place. No longer the banking suprastate in charge of able to interfere with our civilization. Yes, if that was gone, then it'd be a lot easier to recapture our destiny. He says he could go on at length. In short, simple common sense, he says. In short, simple common sense. What is common sense? instinct. This is why so often you hear conservatives say, common sense isn't so common anymore. The fewer the white people, the less white common sense there is. That's true. The more white people, the more common sense. So when a white person, like Chris Langan here says, common sense, what he's saying is what would naturally occur to white people to do who aren't self-hating anti-whites? What would naturally occur to us? What would we naturally think has to be done? That, my friends, is instinct. That, my friends, is the origin of morality, is our instinct, the origin of ethics. Other groups of human beings have common sense. It's just not your common sense. They have morality. It's just not yours. They have ethics. It's just not yours. And like we like to say here, there isn't a cosmic measuring stick for determining which group's common sense is better or morality is better. It just is. We prefer our own. And you can see that for some of the members of other groups of people, they prefer our common sense as well. But once they start enclaving, the instinct comes out. Once their numbers grow large enough, the instinct comes out. Their common sense comes out. An individual can look at our civilization and say, I would rather live with their morality. But his or her children, they're more inclined to revert to their instinct, what's natural. It's just nature. They don't have to be bad people. They don't have to be murderers. And you can see now with the Trump administration and conservatives, the problem that argument makes. Because if the only problem with the people coming into the country is when they rape and murder and abduct children, if that's the only problem, then you're still on your way to white erasure and living in a non-white country. What is a non-white country? The expression of their instinct. It's a very neutral truth, a very neutral, sane way to address the differences in the human animal without categorizing one higher or lower than another. It's just a reality. And if you want to live in an El Salvador or a Honduras or an Yemen, if you want to live in these places, well, by all means, move there. The problem is that anti-whiteism is moving them here. And it's doing so because anti-whiteism is focused on harming us. What would the Jewish kid say? Young man? He would be talking about his people. I'm talking about mine. Anti-whiteism is about harming us. And there are many ways to do that. There are many tools with which to harm us. And anti-whites use other human beings as tools to harm us. Some of those people coming in might be, I'll give you a great example. This Asian girl I knew, she was born and reared in this country. She is a vicious little anti-white. And she hates her mother. She told me all of this stuff before. I didn't tell her anything about me. She was an employee that I was in charge of. And didn't hire her, but I was in charge of. She hates her mother because her mother came from Japan. And her mother looked out at America and said, white people are amazing. White people walk on the moon. White people build Concorde. White people, it's their technology that they brought over here and set up in our factories. And then we mimicked that in our factories. This is all the things that she was telling me about her mother. And that's why she hated her mother so much. White people aren't special. White people didn't do anything good. So what happened? An individual in Japan looked out at the world and said, white people, I like what they're doing. I like their civility. I like their music. I like their science. I like their achievements. I want to live there. I want to live in a Western country. Her daughter, instinct reasserting itself. You're not going to be able to resist instinct for long. It's the nature of nature. You can quote me on that. He finishes with a fair and level playing field is all we need. And that starts with preserving our own nations for our own interests and running them as we see fit. Some would no doubt claim that some of these suggestions are over the top. They are, in fact, minimal remediation for the ugly and unjust plight in which world-class criminals have entrapped us while misusing their monopoly money and our principled generosity to bind our hands. That's the white guilting, using our principled generosity. White guilting. So, very interesting tweet. How many views? 72,000 views. Now, if he only included a frog sticker and meme and the word friend and cozy and groy, if he only had included that and done it long enough and praised those leaders in that Fed-run operation enough, who knows? Might have been many millions. He would also have to start being a spurg on non-white people. Let's hope he doesn't. Let's hope he decides to go the white positive route. And I'd love to have a chat with him at some point, because I imagine he has some interesting things to say. And now we go from the high IQ of Christopher Langan to the hilarity of a black barbershop
from Kathy Utilities, reading quote, "Dear Mom, I've been having fun here at Edinburgh International. There's only a phone number you make."
Oh boy. I hate to say it so much. He said, "What the fuck?" He said, "What the fuck?" when he turned around and saw that purple dildo in his face. Janet of White Noir says, "What a common sense instinct." What is common sense? In quotes. Instinct. Period. What is a non-white country? Question mark. The expression of their instinct. Thank you, brother. I hope that one of these days we can get the respect and audience attention that we deserve. What the fuck? Can you turn around? What the That's pretty funny. You think he's going on there with, the brush to do the shave. What the fuck? What are your final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
No more strife, we're reclaiming our strength, we're taking our life.
Cool Papa J Magic under the thread on X. Good to see you over there, brother. We have 20 reposts, 19 likes. Thank you all who on X promulgated the epic work that we're doing here. Over here on Odyssey, I don't see any tags.
We're moving forward, we're breaking free. Together in strength, our destiny. No more brother wars, the fight is through. For Western kind, we build anew.
No other financial gifts. I didn't miss anybody financially gifting. We, of course, will be back on Sunday. Let's see if there's any tags in the. Greg Samuski says, is it just me or does anyone else notice that every white positive group are called feds almost immediately? Oh yeah, by the Fed group, by the black area Nazis and the Jewish area Nazis and the Peruvian area Nazis. Yeah. Immediately. They call you Fed and they call you Jew and they call you crypto Jew. Never ends. Janitor of White Noir says, I am requesting a MC with some proper CCFGFs for common sense. Yeah, we're going to have to come up with a good pithy MC for the common sense. I mean, maybe saying you mean white common sense? Because then they'll have to inquire, what do you mean by that? Everybody's common sense is not the same. If you don't believe me, just head on over to Zambia and see what their common sense tells you. Head on over to civilization a little bit more like our, head on over to maybe Vietnam. See what their common sense tells them. See what's common sense there. There are obviously going to be similarities because we're all of the same species. So there are going to be similarities, but it's the differences that make us different. And you know that's one of the most powerful MCs there is. It's not the similarities that make us the same, it's the differences that make us different. Western sense, white wisdom. First, last, chiming in really quickly. We could try those out. Those are both good ones. Yeah, I think it would be a great heuristic in a conversation with a vague. When they say common sense, like these conservatives, to use something like that, to say white common sense. Everybody has their own common sense. If it were the case that every common sense across the globe were all the same, then you would be able to travel to these other places, and even easier, these places where they enclave, and go ahead and have a conversation with them. And you'll find very readily that they don't have the exact same common sense. Common sense is really a misnomer, isn't it? Because it incorporates the other. I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well apply it to dogs, birds, elephants. Where would it end? Nationless nationalism, very smartly says over there, being a people will bring us respect. Well said. For the great Fornullan conversation with somebody said a nation of white people. Was that the one I saw? No, it was Big Talking with Big Dog says America was founded by and for white people. We settled it. We built it for our people. It's common knowledge. Not only that, but we remake it every second of our existence. There is no America without white people. None. So it is us. Lobsters, yeah. Jordan Peterson style lobsters. Donunaki is here. He says, white and wise are the same Indo-European root and are interchangeable per different languages. How about that? Yeah, but you'll watch now. You'll suddenly start noticing conservatives saying this. Common sense isn't very common anymore. And don't think it's new. They've been saying that forever. This drives me insane. We need to make common sense. And so you're seeing this comeback. It's like a 1980s comeback from Trump using the common sense. We're just going to reassert common sense. It's everybody's right. That's how everybody ends up with different civilizations. Because everybody has the same common sense. What a hell of a good time we've had, folks. With another Go Free gathering, 5 p.m. in the once great state of Virginia. What time will it be where you are? Eastern Standard Time. Here in the once great state of Virginia, by Mordor on the Potomac, where airplanes are falling out of the sky, I'm afraid. I hope everybody lived through that okay. The Potomac is a cold body of water this time of year, very cold. As we rock out to the great Fornull, wrapping us up here again on this Wednesday, think about how you are going to be the hero in our story. What are going to be the deeds that you are going to accomplish, and begin today working that direction. I'll see you all on the front lines. Roll out.
You gotta hump and get it. I'm a white man looking for a place to do my thing. Now hump and get it. Yeah, I'm a small town man, I've been around a little. I like guitars and I like a fiddle, and that's kind of soul it takes to fan my flame. I'm a blue-eyed Billy, kind of rough and ruddy. I have to work to be somebody. I'm a white man looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they're giving, 'cause I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. I'm a white man looking for a place to do my thing. I'm a West man looking for a place to do my thing.